So, as a bit of context, what we do, the music that you hear in the intro, me and Goodwill sing along to it, but in stupid voices and add lyrics to it. And the joke is to make each other laugh with the random shit that we're singing. And I have won this week. But we have failed at the secondary mission, which is to immediately make it look like we actually are serious. And we failed this week.
All I heard was, and then I fisted your dad. And that was it. I was gone. Yeah. That's it.
Those are the intended lyrics of the Voyager theme song.
Okay. Space. The final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Adequate. Our ongoing mission: to review every episode and movie of Star Trek in existence. To seek out new guests. They are coming soon. And make them very uncomfortable.
I heard that.
To boldly go where many other Star Trek-based YouTube shows have gone before. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Treks and Trekkers worldwide, and welcome to another live episode of Trekkin Up North. I am one of your hosts, Captain Goodwill of the Akira class USS Adequate, and joining me, as ever, is the delectable Yeesian from the planet Honk. It's not Commander Synoiz. He has been demoted. We're just waiting for HR to enact the papers. It's Science Officer Synoiz!
The fact that you've just found that harmonica.
Oh, it's always been
here.
It's always been here. You've just never noticed.
You know what it reminds me of, everyone? It reminds me of Rugrats. Yeah. Papa. But... Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another live episode of Trekkin Up North. We are here to review episode 7 of Star Trek Starfleet Academy Cosine. But we do have a little bit of breaking news. For the second week in a row for Starfleet Academy, it has failed to break the top 10 of the Nielsen ratings in America. And
who is this Nielsen? What's he doing? Like,
so,
why does his opinion matter?
So the Nielsen ratings in America is a selection of viewers that have these Nielsen boxes that are monitored their viewing habits, and that's where you get the Nielsen ratings from.
Right.
And Starfleet Academy has failed to break it in its second week. So for context, the first week is the first 2 episodes, and then the second week was episode 3, and 2 weeks on the bounce, it failed to hit the top 10 streaming chart.
Did it not last week? Because last week where we hated it, but everyone else seems to have gone, oh, that was really good.
So for the Nielsen ratings, we're getting feedback from episode 1, 2, and 3.
Right,
so we won't know about episode 6 until about a month's time. But we did get... I mean... It's a funny one last week. It was, out of this season, it was our lowest rated episode, and I suspect because we were fairly negative because of it. And if we were positive, the views probably would have been through the roof. We got no comments.
This is the hilarious thing,
it's
though.
Crazy.
The fact of, I was having it, I don't know if this was on the podcast or if it was a private discussion between us, but I was talking about the fact of how negative everyone is on YouTube and stuff, because being negative seems to get more people watching. So it's that thing of, and me kind of going like, oh, maybe our channel needs to be more critical, but then we are critical, but we're honest. So it was really interesting that we were discussing that and about the idea of going, yeah, we could just hate on everything, but no, we don't want to, because we'll usually find something that we love about every episode. But it was the fact of, it was nice to have that a couple of weeks ago, and then have last week's episode and both of us genuinely hating it, and then having an episode where we're like, wow, this was we have nothing positive to say about this pretty much, and then seeing that it didn't affect things, it didn't get way more views or whatever, or it didn't get stuff like that. And I'm kind of I quite like that, but I'm very happy that we had a better episode this week.
It was last week. booked the trend for us for this season of Starfleet Academy. We have been positive up until last week, and last week, me and you, which apparently we were the only two people to not like the episode.
Like the fact that even people who usually are in the chat, hello everyone in the chat.
Hello Beth, hello Dystopian, hello Synoiz.
Our usual watchers, I've decided to sign into the different YouTube account. But yeah, we had like regulars and like friends messaging me being like, oh yeah, I really like this one. It was like my favorite of the series. And I'm like, but you know what was really interesting though? Like yesterday, I actually posted on a Facebook group like for Trek that I'm in. And it was so crazy getting to see the other side of things because we've gotten to see their haters on the sort of like the not the right wing, but you know the haters who are just like, oh, you know, look, that Klingon's in a dress, and oh my God, they've made it woke and all that nonsense.
Yeah,
We're used to seeing that. We're used to sort of getting comments on that.
Conservative Trekkies.
Well, you know, just being like, oh, so you don't really understand Trek, and also like you haven't given the series a chance. But the bizarre thing is, I posted on this group, like basically going, hey, me and my co-host really didn't enjoy this episode. Like we really, really disliked it. You know, for the following reasons. But loads of people love it. Can people explain who did love it? Can people explain like why that was? Like, you know, what you really liked about it? And the reactions I got were so toxic, but from the other side. From people just being like, oh, you're another hater. Oh, well, fuck off and die. And like, you know, like, oh, well, I know that your opinion doesn't matter. Block. You know, it's like, oh, you're the reason why we don't get new Trek because people hate everything that comes out. And it's out. And it was just this weird thing of going, okay, so you haven't read what I posted, seemingly, you know, in the context of we have loved this series so far. And it was just people who just refused to engage. Like, none of the people who were like sort of raging about me not liking that particular episode were being constructive or saying, oh, and this is what I liked about it. They were all just like, oh, fuck off and die. Or like sort of, oh, blocked, you know, or calling me names. And it was just so weird just being like, have we all just forgotten how to discuss things or how to...
Has civility left the room?
Yeah, you know, in that crazy way of just going, the whole point of Trek, the whole point of any kind of art is that we can disagree on stuff and then find out how someone else deals with it, you know, and just be like, well, actually, what did you get out of that? Oh, okay. And whether it changes our opinion or not, it's the idea of being able to discuss it. And it does seem like in a lot of forms nowadays where we associate it with like, you know, the more intolerant people or the sort of more right-wing kind of people, we associate the whole like, oh, you don't like talking about it because the more you talk about it, the more you get proved wrong, right? Okay, you know, it's like that idea of going like, oh, look, we implemented like all of this left-wing stuff, and oh, it worked, did it? Right, okay, but like seeing it from the other side and just being like how quick people are, and I think it's because people are so used to being on the back foot, where people are so used to having to defend themselves that they're just tired of it. And as soon as anything comes up that's like someone disagreeing, they immediately just go, nope, I'm checked out. I'm not doing this. But that doesn't really help it when it's like a new person. That doesn't really help it when it's like, well, you know, when it's like a fandom, you know?
It's kind of sad. This level of, I want to say, negativity for a Star Trek season. I don't think I even saw this with Discovery at its peak. The sheer level of hatred, bile, and just general discourse regarding Starfleet Academy has reached a point where I never thought I would see, where it is just, it's turning into like a civil war within Trekkies. Now, as you all know, apart from last week's episode, we have been rather positive for Starfleet Academy. Yeah. If there has been any drawbacks or any feedback...
really positive.
Yeah, but if there has been any drawbacks or any feedback that we've given, we've done it in a constructive and fair way. And then when we have had the naysayers in the comments, in the chat, we have actively gone out and engaged or asked why, or if they are just repeating the same things, I'm just like, thank you for watching the whole video review. But what I'm seeing now is exactly what you have experienced, where we have gone out and we have said, this particular episode, we didn't like it, wanted an explanation, and then I have just seen immediate, not hatred, but just viciousness and bile from the pro Starfleet Academy camp and pro Trekkie camp, where it's like, have you become so jaded and so weary of constantly defending something that you like and constantly having to put up with these right-wing Trekkies that anything negative, your immediate knee-jerk reaction is, you are scum, F off and unalive yourself. And it's like, but what you need to realise is, because you've become so jaded, you are becoming the very thing that you hate, and you are not taking a step back, reading what is being put out. You're immediately finding the negativity within the comment without looking at the whole comment objectively.
It's that association. It's the idea of, if someone says something negative to them, they're immediately associating that with other people that have said negative things, and just lumping them together and being like, oh, you have something critical to say about like an episode of Academy. You must be the same as the people who haven't given it a chance and hated it. And you're like,
exactly.
No. But the issue is, like, I forgot.
Well, that's just fantastic. What a fantastic comment. But hey, guess what? You're removed. And
was there
you're
someone
gonna
in
get
the chat?
Yeah.
But
keep going.
I think the fact is that, like, we have so many people who don't seem to understand that you are always a representative of both yourself and your subculture. Like, and you can't control that, and it's not fair, but it's the idea of, if you go out into the world and you give someone a hard time, or you are a horrible experience for someone, that reflects upon a lot of other people, and it shouldn't work that way. We should realize that everyone is individuals. We should realize that everyone is, like, sort of going through their own stuff, but that's not really how it works. And I think you get a lot of people who have been through the wars, and they get to and then they're through the wars, they've gone through all of that, and then they just start being defensive and nasty and whatnot. And it's like, no, you have to keep the smile on. It's like you can't get, like, sort of 4 hours into your shift at work and then just start telling everyone to fuck off. It's like, that's not really how it works, but it's also how it works socially as well. And
I mean,
because that's the first thing they're going to jump on. The first thing the horrible, like, twats are going to jump on is, this person said something nasty to me. That means I'm going to roll it out with everyone,
I mean, we're 14 minutes into this. I'm already having to remove and report hateful comments against us.
Are they really that bad?
Yes, and I will not repeat it. But I'm going to have to hire moderators. But this is the thing, like, we can agree to disagree.
People are engaging,
We can, yeah, leave a like. We can agree to disagree and stuff, but I think, as, for the most part, Trekkies can be positive, we can be supportive, and we can look out for each other. But what I am seeing is, and this is not just in reference to Starfleet Academy, I am seeing more bitterness, more toxicity from people I did not expect to see this from, and just general hatefulness from people, from Trekkies, and it is sad. We should be celebrating all kinds of Star Trek, all things Star Trek in its 60th year. And if you don't like it, if you have problems with it, explain why. Come up with a constructive reason why. Don't just go, I don't like it because, and then follow the bandwagon of everyone else. Because if you don't have an explanation as to why, if you don't have a reason as to why you don't like it, then you're just showing that you're jumping on the bandwagon and hating something because it's popular to hate it, that it's trendy to hate it. Starfleet Academy, on the whole, is a good show. It's not the best show. It's not the greatest Star Trek show in the world, but
It has some rough edges.
it shows, for a first season, it shows immense promise. Now, how many first season Star Trek shows can you say were absolutely bloody flawless? Can you say that about the Next Gen? Can you say that about DS9, about Voyager, about Enterprise? No, you cannot. This is where shows find their feet. And this is not just Star Trek, this is everything. And I want to link it back to, so Scrubs is going through a reboot, but Scrubs is coming back. Okay.
Right, okay.
So Variety reviewed the new season of Scrubs, right? And immediately they went back and went, it's millennial cringe. And you read the review, and you go, you have completely and utterly missed the mark about why this show is coming back and why the show has been done the way it is. People don't want Scrubs as a different take. They don't want it as a different vibe or a different feel. They want more of the same. Yeah. That is why it is like that. And you can sit there and call it millennial cringe, but the people who watched Scrubs when it was first on air, who love it to death, they have looked, they will go back and go, it's more of the same. It's exactly what we wanted it to be. And in a world that is constantly in turmoil, everyone is massively depressed, fearful, pessimistic. We need stuff like this that reminds us of better days, of our younger days, of our childhood. You don't want a different take on something. And you look at Starfleet Academy, and Starfleet Academy is different Star Trek, but it's throwing a whole heap of positivity where it can within that, and it's building a world, it's expanding a world, it's fleshing out characters. It is doing what 90s Star Trek did best. It just only has 10 episodes, which is so frustrating.
Yeah, well, a season should definitely be longer, but I think it's the issue is that we have in all the media at the moment, like in the film industry and the TV industry. And it's the fact of trying to make something for everyone. And you can't. And you just fail if you try to make everybody happy. And it's why it's been good that with the other Star Trek shows recently, like Prodigy and whatnot, they've gone, hey, we are for this. We are for this. And that's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that Starfleet Academy is like, hey, it's Star Trek, but it's for teens. But if you're a big Star Trek fan, you'll find like enough there to kind of enjoy. And it's kind of doing quite well there. But then we're seeing a lot of stuff where people are going, oh, but this isn't for me. And it's like, it doesn't need to be. Like, it's like with elections and stuff where someone just goes, oh, that policy doesn't, that policy doesn't affect me. Why do I care? And it's like, well, for other people, it's the idea of finding the stuff that you like and rolling with that, but then trying not to stop the stuff that other people like,
I think the other problem with Trekkies is they want to watch everything, they want to absorb everything because they care a lot about the universe, and they find it frustrating that they have to find out things about the universe from a show that they don't like. And it's like, right, okay, but you could read about it, you could persevere through it, but if you really don't like it, then don't watch it. And I mean, I was speaking to Mark this week, who is literally just caught up with season 5 of Discovery, and again, he had the same issues that me and you had 2 years ago with Discovery, but he sat there and he was like, I don't like it, but this is why I don't like it, and I feel that they could have done this better. So he's actually sat and went, I don't like it, but here is my fully fleshed out reason for not liking it, and here's what I think they could have done better. And then he's sat and he's thought about it, and he's discussed it with people where other people are like, nope, I don't like this because the Klingon wears a scant. And it's like, but
I mean, it's this weird thing because it's like Trek's always been like that, like we've always had, the scand has always been terrible, but at the same time, we can forgive it. But I think it's, I forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, but I think the fact is that people can't justify their opinions, and that's kind of fine. But then the idea of just going, I just liked it because I liked it. And maybe it's our problem that we always have to have more than that. We always need to be
Yeah.
like, well, why did you like it? What did you enjoy it? But I feel that's because we're trying to get it in a constructive way of like, how can we do better with this? How can we sort of improve it? And I think a lot of people just go, I just want this. But it is an interesting thing though, because I've been talking about video games a lot lately, and the fact of we're getting video games where they just go, yeah, we're just going to make an old style game, like indie games and stuff. Like, I don't know if you saw this, Diablo 2, okay? Like, it's 25 years? No, older than that, is it?
It's older
20, I
than
think it's
that.
like nearly, it's 30 years old or something.
Yeah.
But basically, Blizzard released a new character class for Diablo 2. And it's basically like, yeah, they just went, hey, here's a new character. There you go. Like after 25 years. And it's just incredible. And people are going wild for it. And people are like, yeah, that's what we want. And they haven't mixed anything up. They haven't done stuff. They've just gone, no, new character. And it's like we're seeing with films where someone's just going, yeah, we've made this film, so it's like it was from the 90s. Or we're making this video game with tank controls and like fixed camera angles and stuff like that. And people are like, yeah, we want this. And you realize that maybe people are just going, we just want golden era Trek. And maybe we
The,
could do it.
but
Maybe
the
we
problem
genuinely could
is,
just go, hey, let's make a show that feels like it was in, like DS9 or Voyager age.
but
But we're
the
still always going to have to deal with the topics that things like Academy are dealing with. And
yeah.
that's what is putting people off. It's not the lighting, it's not the special effects necessarily, it's the themes. But
The problem is as well, it's sifting through the sheer level of hatred to find those nuggets of feedback where it's like the majority of the fan base would like Star Trek to look like this or be like this or go back to the golden era. And the problem is, we know that, a lot of other fans know that, but you know that the executives at Paramount don't move in the same circles as we do.
yeah.
They don't look at the same figures as we do. And it is difficult when you are, let's be honest, they are not fans of the franchise. They don't understand the franchise, trying to get feedback, and they'll go, let's go on Twitter. Let's go on Facebook. And then the
But
first
then
thing that they say is this is woke, this is woke. And the other thing I want to bring up
And
is,
it just gets disregarded.
yeah,
It's the
and
fact that if you can't convey it, then people just go, oh, they're an idiot. They don't think, oh, they're
Yeah.
upset about a Klingon in a skirt. They just go, that person's opinion doesn't matter.
But
Ignore, let's do more of it.
But the other thing I want to bring up is the people that hate the show can't and will not give you their honest opinion as to why they hate the show, because they themselves know if they do that, it makes them look like a bigot, a racist, a... Do you see what I mean? So what they try and do
I guess
is
if their opinion does boil down to an actual bias,
Yes.
where they're just like, I just don't like the fact there's a gay person in it, or I just don't like the fact that this character's black,
Yeah.
and if they are like that, then yeah, and I guess a lot of the time, yeah, we're kind of saying, hey, what's your constructive criticism? But then the issue is that hopefully that means that we get more people who are putting depth to their criticism, because not being able to do that makes it kind of look like it's just based upon
And-
something else, like some other inherent bias.
But unfortunately, as is the case in most things in life, the loudest, stupidest people get the most limelight
Get elected.
and get elected. And I'm telling you now. But
I wasn't even meaning him specifically. I was meaning like
Oh,
across the fucking world at the minute.
I'm sorry. Fuck him. And his diaper. But the loudest people get the most attention, and this is the thing in life. So you've got people like me and you, and you've got fantastic people like Jesse Gender, Trek Trav, Trekkommendations, Trek Culture, and everyone like that, and they have these opinions, but they get absolutely buried by the loudest, stupidest, most obnoxious people, and that's the feedback that they go to straight away. And it's just sad, and I am tired of it. I am very, very tired of it. We love Star Trek here at Trekkin Up North, obviously. We want to celebrate it we still want to celebrate it with everyone. But the fight is we have to go up against loud, stupid, obnoxious people that really don't have a constructive reason to dislike this show. And they're just hiding their prejudices under a thinly veiled criticism. So when you do actually challenge them, they have nothing, and then that's when the personal attacks come.
Well, that's it. Yeah, if you ever have to do a personal attack, it means you don't have a clue what you're talking about. That's the terrifying thing. It's like going right, but that's why we see it so much in politics. But yes, anyway, we've done half an hour so far.
Let's get into our review of Cosine, episode 7 of Star Trek Starfleet Academy.
What did you think of this? What did you think of this?
Do you know what? Do you know what? And I said this to you today, and you reacted at this. I thought it was a good episode, but then there was a part of me going, I mean, I got home last night, and my partner was here, and I was exhausted. Okay, so to summarize this week, I have had 4 job interviews this week, plus therapy, plus the charity event in Sunderland, which went really well.
I don't know that one.
I don't know. Someone called Snatch. I don't know, but looked like Thatcher with a mustache. But we had the charity event, and then I've had an extremely busy week at work, and then job interview. I am done. In the bed, and it's not ending yet.
Yeah.
Like.
You have a full weekend as well.
4 a.m. on Sunday, I am officially off the clock, okay? So I got home and I sat down. I had what I called a povo pizza, which is spicy pepperoni, smoked cheese on tiger bread. A povo pizza. Lidl's finest. Recommend it.
I thought you were saying povo pizza, and I was like, "What is that?" It's like
a poverty pizza,
with some cheese on.
A poverty pizza, yeah, a poverty pizza. Because I'm piss broke, but minimum wage.
That doesn't sound like a poverty pizza. That sounds like a really nice pizza.
It's I treated myself to a donut.
Oh, did you treat yourself?
You,
honey.
I was full of joie de vivre last night, but I got home. Joie de vivre.
Yeah. Is that cum?
It's the moose bouche of semen. But we, hello parents. But we sat down.
Goodwill.
We sat down and we watched Starfleet Academy. And after I watched it, I went, that was better than episode 6, and I actually enjoyed it. And I said to you today, I was like, I don't know if I was just delirious or I really did like it. But I reviewed it today, and it's like, no, do you know what? This was a good character-based development episode, and I thoroughly liked it. However, my one feedback is, again, she was running for 30 seconds. Lyra Thock is missing again.
It's almost like there's a pattern. When she's not in the episode, it's a better episode.
But it was. I enjoyed it. I'm glad that we got 2 development arcs for both Genesis and Remy as well. And we got confirmation that Jaden is Gaden. Finally!
Gaden, are you coining this? Gaden. I love how that's both the most supportive and homophobic thing you've said today.
You know it's not homophobic though, because I like Star Trek.
I love it though. Of just being like,
I like it. I like it. And I would like to. There's a video that Jason Roy Gaston did from Captain's Quadrant where he's like, "Klingons are gay. Get over it." And I'm like,
what with the Garrick thing?
Yeah, exactly. That just needs to be a T-shirt. It really just is just like, Klingons are gay. Get over it. And I'm like, why shouldn't they be?
Well,
why? I love Jaden so much.
Well, I quite like that we have, like, because it's like, why would the Klingons have a problem with sort of being gay? Like, it's,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing of like, Klingons are really well defined in the lore where they care about honor, they care about the warrior's path. And it kind of feels like that, like ancient Sparta kind of thing, or that kind of, oh yeah, it's perfectly cool as long as you're a warrior. It's like, oh well, sleep with
Mm.
whoever you want as long as you're doing this. Uh, and obviously they have a lot of pride in their houses. They have a lot of pride in their sort of family lines and stuff. So they'd probably be like Romans, where they kind of go, you've got to have some kids, but you can also be, married to a guy
Hmm.
or whatever. So it doesn't really disrupt the law, the idea of a
No.
gay Klingon. Like and I quite like that all of the stick that Jaden's getting in the series, in terms of the actual characters and stuff, isn't because of his sexuality, it's because he's a pacifist. That's
Yeah.
the thing that'll upset the Klingons. That's the thing
Yeah.
where we got his episode where they're like, we don't know how to process this. It's like, oh, thank God he's a warrior if he's gay kind of thing. But then, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that the Klingons like, oh my God, yeah, yeah. Wait, you won't kill an animal? You fucking bastard. You're no son of mine.
Why is
But
his dad Sean Bean?
I don't know. Well, he's probably
Kapla,
dead.
you
Well, he was nearly
bastard.
dead. Kapla, you bastard.
Bastard.
Mel B off Bo Selector. You
Get your butt
bastard.
left, you bastard.
But you know what though? I struggled with this episode. Well, no, I will say I really enjoyed this episode. It was far better than last week. Like last week was the
mm,
lowest of the low. We struggled in our review to find something positive to say about it last week. It just didn't feel Trek. It didn't feel there was just so many plot holes and all this, mystery box things just happened for the sake of the
yeah.
plot, and it was just bad writing. But with this one, the two things I'm kind of annoyed with is I'm annoyed that we've had like I know Raimi and Genesis aren't the main characters. Obviously
Mhm.
that's Caleb. That's Caleb. Maybe even Sam and Aki and whatnot.
I
But it's the
just
fact of the
just
last
like a
episode we got that talked about Raimi and Genesis was also a dual episode where they got the A
yeah.
plot and the B plot. And to have it again rather than just a Genesis episode or just a Raimi episode. And it feels like it's not respecting the characters enough to be like, no, no, you get the whole thing here.
Yeah.
Like because Sam
I
got a whole episode, Caleb's got like three whole episodes.
So to summarize, the academy is essentially on spring break. It's a spring semester, so everyone's gone for All Worlds Day, which is possibly Star Trek's version of Life Day.
I quite like it, adding new lore in, adding
Yeah,
new sort of public holidays and stuff.
I do like it. But what we find is Caleb doesn't want to go to his foster family in Senegal, so he convinces Aki to allow him to stay at the academy where he can just study. And what we see is all the gang are splitting up essentially. Sam's going to a holographic rehab apparently, which I was
Yeah,
like,
it's a bit
is
weird.
this a thing? Is this this
Yeah.
really a thing? But we see Genesis is going to spend time with her father. She's going to her shuttle, and then Jaden is going to Ibiza with Kyle, and he wants to. I really wanted Jaden to wear this Hawaiian shirt. I want to see a Klingon in a Hawaiian shirt. That would have
I
been
quite
amazing.
like that he refused because we had the wonderful episode with Worf in DS9 where he just refused to like get into the spirit of being on a holiday planet in the slightest. So I kind of like that we're keeping Klingons yeah, consistent in terms of their reaction to Hawaiian dress.
Just had to do a little bit more admin there,
Oh,
but we so the crew that like all the students are going away and stuff like that, and basically Jaden sees what he believes as Remy being kidnapped by people in the academy, and I kind of don't like that we've got Doctor Strange portals suddenly in
yeah.
Star Trek. It was like it's a little bit too convenient to have such
I
a thing.
I think this is the problem. Like, we complain about Discovery a lot. That's
Yeah.
end of the first sentence. No, but to continue the sentence. Well, just unrelated. It's pile of wank. But And also, the reason why I don't think we had as much backlash to Discovery as we're having to Starfleet Academy is simply because the climate was different back then. People weren't as incensed. People weren't struggling as much as they are now when Discovery came out. And so the idea now that everyone feels like they're being ignored by the establishment and the people who actually matter is probably, if Discovery came out now, it would get absolutely destroyed, I think, rather than getting given the chance that it was given, I think. But yeah,
Yeah.
anyway. But with this, what Discovery did is it tried to distance itself fully from Trek in order to not get caught up in things like this, where you can't introduce something because of the ramifications it has, where the writers are kind of chained to be like, we can't just add portals. We can't just have random stable wormholes because that's a really big deal. And that's the thing. And stuff like this, you just go, yeah, that really changes the game. That there is a race that just gets into Academy where security should be massive. Like what the hell? Like surely there should be shields around the academy, and then his race are just like, yeah, we can just all like open stable portals across space in order to jump in and
It's
kidnap someone.
it's so crazy that
Yeah.
like Jet Reno is literally the caretaker of the whole goddamn ship. And I'm like, this is
Well,
an
you
academy.
would be if the alternative was going home to Lurathok. Imagine you would take an extra shift at work. If you're like, oh, I could go home and get yelled at for like 2 days.
I love the
I
fact. I love the fact that Reynold breaks a toe or stubs a toe or something like that, and all you hear is Lurathok going, "You are going to die! You are going to die! Tell me you're okay! Why do you only have 2 toes?" And she's like, "I don't have 2 toes."
it's
And
just awful. You're just sitting there being like, okay, so Reno's into BDSM or something, like because like why would you date the only character whose only personality trait is either doing nothing in times of crisis or yelling constantly rather than doing anything. Like that is
oh, poor Jet,
yeah.
poor Jet. But so Remy is getting he's getting kidnapped, and Jaden suspects this, runs to try and save him. Portal jumps into the portal, and then we realize that this is a portal to the Kionian Sunset Moon, I think it was called, or
Yeah.
Sun Moon or something like that.
I think Sunset Moon.
Sunset Moon. And then what we also see, so the A and B plot is Caleb is alone at Starfleet Academy, but he's not alone because we see the Genesis snuck back. She didn't go off. And before she was going off, she had the conversation with Aki.
What we had is we had Chancellor Aki taking her aside before she teleported off, being like, "Hey, we've noticed how amazing you were. Like, you managed to stand up to great pressure. Like when we had the crisis last week, where you sat on the bridge and you did some scans, and apparently that's great work. But she did do loads of scans while Laura Thock was standing next to her, encouraging her, which is a monumental achievement to manage anything in that environment.
I'm not being funny. If the senior staff don't take over and you end up doing their job, you deserve their job.
This is one of the arguments I had where people were just like, well, it's a school. They're meant to be training the cadets and stuff. So that's why no one stepped in to help. And I'm just like, can you imagine if like you were at school and the school was on fire and all of the instructors were just like, sort yourselves out then.
This is a good learning experience.
Yeah, this will be a learning. If you burn to death, you fail.
If you save the school, you'll pass the test.
Imagine if you had like sort of like a shooting incident or something like that, and the teachers were just like, well, sort yourself. Do it yourself. It'll be a good learning thing. It's like, no. The whole point is that you are learning under controlled conditions, and as soon as the conditions stop being controlled, the instructors step in and like do it. And then we didn't. We literally just got it being like, well, none of the other bridge crew are here, so I guess we'll get Genesis doing stuff, and Lurathok just doing nothing.
But as a result of Genesis doing well, she is fast tracked on the command program,
Yeah.
which is a shock to her. But then I tell you what, shall we break
I
down the
also like the
episode?
fact that Raimi isn't. Like Raimi doesn't get a message, and that's what he really
Yeah,
wanted to become like a
yeah.
captain or something. And I think it would have helped the episode if he had. If they like we had in the previous Duel episode where it was about sort of, him trying too hard to please his parents, but her being actually really suited for it. I think it would have been good if it kind of went like, hey, you could actually be a Starfleet captain. Oh, actually, no, you need to give all of that up. And that was his kind of decision because, yeah, I don't know. The episode made me uncomfortable in places because it's like, I'm just going to out and say it, okay? One of the things I was going to say earlier is that I didn't like Jaden that much in this episode because of the way he treated Raimi. And
Really?
I was wondering why, because he was really nasty to Raimi. But the issue we have, the big flaw with Raimi's character, and I'm beginning to think that maybe it's the actor, like it's the way that he's being portrayed. He's being portrayed way nicer than the script intends him to be.
Okay.
Because all the characters act like he's an absolute dickhead. Like it has all these lines where people are like, "Oh, no one likes him," kind of thing, and yet it has him being really nice to people and people responding to him nicely. Because how if someone says something nice to you, how do you answer them back nastily? And he just seems so out of character. And then Jaden ended up looking a bit crap to me because he was being so, oh, well, that's the consequences of your actions, and you've been a dickhead to everyone. And we're like, we haven't seen this. We've literally seen Raimi save people and stand up for people and come out of his comfort zone for others and stuff. And that is the realization later on in the episode. But it's this idea of going, should Raimi have been more of a dickhead in the like more of a because he just flips. He literally just has a scene where he's being a bit of a bully for one scene, and then the next scene he's going out of his way to help someone. And you're just like, I don't understand this character, and I don't think he's played with the nuance to get across the whole you can be both. You can be nasty to some people, but then, and I don't think it's making that kind of statement. But yeah, so I did find Raimi's whole arc in this like a bit, I don't know, yeah.
I think to be honest, out of both arcs, Genesis's arc
Yeah.
was the stronger one.
Hmm.
It's good that we got to see Remy's character fleshed out, a bit of background, but I kind of wanted to see more of Genesis because she is the prodigy. She's on this fast track. And she beams back to the academy, surprises Caleb, and she's like, "Oh, I just didn't want to go on," and stuff. And then, we realize that there is an ulterior motive to this, and that she uses him later on in the episode for her own goal, and it backfires massively. But with Remy, I think if you were going to do something like that, it needed to be its own episode. It didn't need a B plot. It needed to be one
Well,
singular plot to go through because he is such a character where when he was first introduced, he was obnoxious, he was arrogant, but then he saved the academy.
no,
And
for like half the episode, and then he was amazing for the other half, and like,
yeah, yeah,
and you're just going like, so he hasn't even had a full episode of being a dickhead, and yet everyone acts like he is a constant dickhead, and they're just
yeah.
going, but this is exactly what you're saying there is why the seasons need to be longer. There are two separate episodes in this episode. There is literally you could do one about the Jaden and Raimi, and you because what I expected, what I made notes of is the whole like what happens is Jaden, like before he goes through the portal, he drops the bag he's carrying. I can't remember if it was the bag or the Hawaiian shirt.
He's holding the Hawaiian shirt and he drops
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But he drops it and then steps in. And I was just like, is this going to be a B plot of Kyle, like his boyfriend, trying to find him? Like Kyle being like, where the hell's he gone? Has he been kidnapped?
Yeah.
He finds the shirt, he does that. And that could be a whole episode of basically going, no, actually, he hasn't been kidnapped. It's all this thing. And he's trying to get back and doing all that. You could make a full episode of that. The same way you can make a full episode about Genesis's arc and like what's happening with Caleb. And it did feel like we had two potentially great stories kind of just quickly sorted and resolved because I don't even think they're A plots and B plots. They're equal time plots in this, I think, because I think they
The
get the same
the
amount of screen time.
they're equal time, but I think with Remy's, I think that one needed a much bigger amount of screen time to fully explain, because it's nice, it's pretty, and yet again we've got the AR wall that fills out for sets and stuff. That's fine, whatever. But it just, I think it needed to be fleshed out a little bit more. And I agree with you with the whole Jaden and Kyle. Like, Kyle was expecting him in Ibiza, and then when we next see Kyle at the end of the episode, he's like waving at Jaden and kissing him on the cheek and stuff like that. And I'm like, you went to Ibiza without Jaden, but you didn't know where he was. Were you not mad? Were you not frustrated? Like, why?
I like the idea of Kyle. I'm kind of enjoying him, but there isn't really a character to Kyle. Kyle is literally just like an object. Kyle is just an object for like for Jaden's progression, and it's just a bit of a shame that it's like the idea of going, so did you not feel anything? Like, these are things that could have been explored, like, and it's like the idea of going, so okay, so your boyfriend didn't turn up for the holiday after you'd organized everything, mysteriously vanished, and then you get a message saying, oh, he's with that other guy who seemingly hates you for some reason, like, and really doesn't like you. Potentially there's a love triangle there. I'm not sure.
Oh, they're setting this up.
It kind of hints that Raimi sort of has a crush on Jaden and stuff. But but then the next time he sees him, it's literally just like, Kyle's just like, oh, I'm so happy you're there. And it's like nothing's happened. And I'm just going like, yeah, I don't know.
It got to me a little bit. It really got, so there was a couple of errors in this episode. One of them was glaring to me and it really annoyed me. But this was like the lesser error where it's like, hang on, where is the scene where you're explaining it? Where is the scene where Kyle's mad that he went to Ibiza? Apparently he just went to Ibiza and got sunburnt and didn't even think of you. Like, did you contact him while you were on the sunset moon? Did you? Because all we see is...
That's it. It should have, like, and it's the same as last week. It should have just had little throwaway lines like, oh, they've got guns that can hurt holograms. Like, just little thing like that, like throwing that in there kind of thing. Or like, oh yeah, I need to contact Kyle kind of thing and tell him what's happened. And then everything else runs smoothly. And I know I make a big fuss about sort of, show, don't tell. Like, don't go, oh, we need to explain all of this, otherwise stupid people won't understand it. But I think there is more that they could be doing in the showing to be like, oh yeah, we thought about that. Rather than just going, nah.
There's a lot to be said without words, but there's also a lot to be said with words as well. It's the tiny little, like Synoiz says, it's the tiny little things that just help the story move along smoothly, and this is one of the glaring things.
It just stops the haters. It literally, all we needed last week was like the whole, hey, this gun can hurt holograms, and oh yeah, this isn't like a Romulan drive. They wouldn't have worked during the burn because of this other technology that it's part of. Just something that goes, hey, we are fans as well. We know what you're going to say about this.
Yeah.
Like, just plonking it in there. But
we'll focus on this episode. So we'll do Remy's arc first, and then we'll do Genesis's after. So I think it's just a lot easier than Dancing Rambo. But so what we find out that essentially Remy is in an arranged, shall we say, marriage.
We're gonna say marriage, yeah. They're equivalent.
Their equivalent of an arranged marriage, but there was an agreement that this was going to be delayed for 5 to 6 years so that Remy could go to Starfleet Academy and stuff like this. But it is brought forward. It's not a kidnapping. It's part of the engagement ritual, stag do ritual, or something like that.
Well, the whole thing is that his bride to be is the princess of the kingdom of their entire race. So, and they've been betrothed for years, they've been friends for years, but then because her parents have decided that they don't want to be king and queen anymore, they've abdicated.
Yeah.
And that's basically knocked the schedule up. So she's gone, hey, I had to have you kidnapped because A, that's a family ritual, and B, we need to do this now because I have to become queen, you have to become king. And yeah, and it's a strange one, but I kind of like the idea because we do have lots of crazy stag do type stuff over here. So the idea of getting kidnapped before your wedding and it being a surprise when your wedding happens, I can imagine that it happening.
Also, feedback. Why don't the king and queens have a line in this episode?
Yeah,
It's
well,
kind of weird.
Why is it so quiet? Like
Yeah.
they kind of point out
There's
that
not
the
many
ceremony-
people.
But they kind of point out that the ceremony is like a sort of private function, and there's only about sort of eight or so people there. And then afterwards, the day afterwards, is when they have the big parade and the sort of public sort of announcement kind of thing.
But-
And that kind of makes sense. But it also helped. But then, for a show that's kind of going, look how much we're spending on every episode, and I'm just like, you appear to have made the plot happen so that you didn't have to put any extra money into this episode.
It's like, oh,
They have
we're
eight guys
on
at the wedding.
we're on the sunset moon. We can't go down to the planet because that is for the next day. And we definitely cannot show this. And I'm like, oh,
We
dude,
can't have everyone
this is-
underwater, even though
this
we're
is-
an aqua species.
This is the made-for-TV movie that has like a budget of 3 million, and it's like, let's take the helicopter. No, let's walk. It's a nice
Problem is,
day.
though, I'm complaining about this, and I really shouldn't. I'm going against my sort of roots here because I love that. That's what I want from Trek. I don't want them throwing money at everything. I want them telling good stories. So
Yeah.
I fully accept the whole, oh, we're doing this on the moon, which is conveniently means we don't need to do a big CG underwater world with
Yeah.
everyone as like fish people.
But
Because that would
I-
be really expensive,
But the thing
You
is,
need more polystyrene rocks. That's what.
yeah, this is one of my feedbacks of modern Trek. It's this, and the shed, the magnificent 6'5", nice France Canadian shed with French doors, David, whom I know I love and will one day share a delicious beer with, knows my not disdain but struggles with the AR wall in the Star Trek stage in Toronto because it is painfully obvious when it is on the scene. It is painfully obvious that everything is built around it. And I'm like, look, polystyrene rocks, dig a hole. You are in Toronto, right? Go out into the countryside. Go do something. Strange New
Yeah.
Worlds did it. Go do something that just makes it look a little bit more real as opposed to a CG wall because it really does. And this is a Trekkie talking about this when we had polystyrene walls, but it takes you out of it. And you can do a lot. And I actually saw something about this the other day where they were comparing the original series to, I think it was Starfleet Academy. And they said, you can do so much with so little. And they made a comparison on the lighting in the original series, how the lighting was dynamic. It changed the tone, the atmosphere. You could have a flat wall, exactly like I do here. You can have a flat wall and you can change the dynamic of that wall with a bit of lighting. It is a lost art because modern filmmaking doesn't do that because the way that stuff is focused, it is focused entirely on the characters. So the backgrounds are always blurred. So you can't have dynamic lighting, you can't have different shades and everything like that, and it really does take it out of it. And
I love things to be more low budget, like plain and simple.
I mean, $100 million.
It's the story that matters. It's the story and the acting that matters, you know.
And
And yet, what we're seeing is stuff that costs an absolute fortune, and yet you can still see where the Vulcan ears are glued on. Like, and luckily we haven't had that in Academy, but we've had it in Discovery, where you were just like, why are the ears a different color to the rest of his skin? Isn't that like the first job of a makeup person?
The thing is that the art of Star Trek was working on a shoestring budget and making it look flawless, making it look cool and timeless. Now, Academy season 1 had a budget of 100 million.
Bloody hell.
Adjusted for inflation, 176 episodes of The Next Generation was 270 million. 176 episodes. And I think, you know, the art of cutting the budget back and you know, like scaling grandiose stuff like an AR wall back down and just it would make it more believable using more practical effects. An AR wall is good.
But the thing is, when we're talking about Trek, when we're talking about like Academy, the stuff that we're not giving points for are the special effects. Like
Yeah.
when we're the stuff that we're giving points for is the discussions between the characters, the plots between them, the interactions and stuff. We're not going like sort of we're if anything, we're taking points off when they don't manage to pull off a special effect properly,
Yeah.
but then not really giving points for being like, well, that was well done. Like, oh, I loved that there were so many random robots in the background in that corridor. It's like,
Which they've
no.
really cut down on in the
Which I
later
liked.
episodes.
I
Yeah.
just think episode one was fucking awful. Episode one was bloody awful. Episode six was awful. And episode one was because it was trying to showcase. It was going,
Yeah.
look, it's not really Trek. It's this new fancy Trek. And if you don't like Trek, you'll love this kind of thing. And then obviously episode two onwards kind of goes, well, actually, yeah, it's Trek. Um, but the episode one just felt like someone trying to show off this is where all the money went. And it just didn't gel.
I
But yeah.
just I kind of could have done without the flashy effects for the Kionian sections and just have more of a deep dive into Kionian culture, the Kionian
Which
wedding
is
laws.
kind of what we got. Which
Not
is that
much
it's kind of
though.
what we got, but we could have had far more. Like it
Yeah,
does feel a bit like
they
this is a
skipped
new
key
race.
they skipped the wedding, shall we say, and key things, and then you know we have the scene with Jaden and Remy where Remy is having cold feet, shall we say, and Jaden is literally just fucking freezing, and I'm like, no wonder you're on top of the mountain. Of course you're going to be cold, but it's stuff like that where he's getting cold feet and Jaden is, like you said, really like laying into him and having a go at him and stuff like that. And he storms off that he's going home and then comes back for the speech, which again, I was like, you know, a couple of episodes ago, you were struggling to speak in public. Now you're very au fait
Yeah,
with
it
it.
should. This is a far bigger arc than we are able to see, and it annoys
Yeah.
me. This should be
Yeah.
something that's over 20 episodes where we get to be like, whoa, like literally all we have got is one scene between Raimi and Jaden of Raimi trying to help Jaden with public speaking. And Jaden gets slightly better. He's able to actually do it once, kind of thing. And then, oh, and also we kind of go, oh, maybe there's some kind of Raimi fancies Jaden kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
just in one scene. And then all of that informs what happens here, where we now have a love triangle where Raimi's jealous, and maybe that's a factor in why he doesn't want to get married or whatnot. But it isn't really made clear. But also the fact of like Jaden just suddenly being able to do public speaking, and it references it of going, hey, you can do this because I showed you how to do this. But it feels like there should have been three more bits between that and this, and it's just so condensed. But
Also,
but then
the ramifications, the ramifications of the, I mean, spoiler alert, but the ramifications of the wedding, the union being dissolved, being annulled, and him abdicating from the throne. What is the ramifications of this
yeah,
for Kionian culture?
this is the problem, and it's a weird thing because like you said it before, like oh, he gets cold feet. I don't think it's that simple. Like, not wanting to get married is one thing, but the idea of going, he will become king. It's not a case of going, oh, you're going to lose your freedom and you have to leave the academy or something like that. It's like, no, no, you become the king of your entire race and you have to, like, that becomes your entire life from then on. And it doesn't seem to, and it's really odd, like no one seems to respect that insanity. Like, Jaden's just like, oh, you're just going to abandon us, are you, kind of attitude. Or like going, oh, like, and Raimi's kind of going, I'm nervous because I have to become a king. And Jaden's like, "Oh, oh, oh." And it just seems so like weird. It's like they threw the whole king bit in really late. Like the script only existed as, oh, he just needs to get married to a woman. But then, like we had in Enterprise, where it was a T'Pol, where it just goes like, oh, they're getting married. Nothing really wrong with that. Oh, but she has to, by culture, stay there a year afterwards. And he gets to control whether she does all of this other stuff or comes back. And then the trip stuff. None of that is kind of here because it's like you become a fucking king. And yeah, and it just seems weird. Like I genuinely felt for Raimi in this episode because nobody seems to take his feelings on board in the slightest. And after he kind of, yeah, he literally has a scene with Jaden. I kind of think Jaden's a bit of a dickhead, and it's really odd because I know I'm not supposed to feel that way, but he literally has a scene where he's like, I'm cold. And Raimi's like, I'm very scared about losing my potential future and becoming a king and all of the stuff there. And can I do it and all this? And Jaden's like, I'm cold. I don't want to be here. I don't want to make a speech. And, Raimi's like, hey, this is really, really fucking important. You need to, I need you to do this speech in front of the most important people because it's a massive cultural faux pas if it doesn't happen. And Jaden's like, no, I don't want to. I want to go home and like go to Ibiza. And I don't know how anyone can take Jaden like
It's
not being a dickhead from that scene. Even like Raimi even takes his jacket off, like takes his coat off and gives it to, he proves throughout the entire scene that he's constantly thinking of others. And Raimi's dilemma through this whole episode is that he doesn't respect himself enough to actually do what he wants to do. Like he is so indebted to, he's so dedicated, sorry, to his friends and to his family and to his culture that he's like, I will give up my freedom and do my duty. And, Jaden doesn't understand that because he ran away from his stuff in order to pursue his own path. And I'm not sure if we're supposed to be like, yeah, that's cool. Everyone should do that kind of thing. And, escape from what society expects them to do. I like it on one hand, but I don't think it's a universal, yeah, everyone should do that. But like Raimi, yeah, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth of how everyone treats him. And then even at the end of the episode, Raimi's decision is made for him. He literally has his wife, who he's just got married to, the Queen, goes to him and goes, "You're not happy here, so I'm going to cut you off, cancel the marriage, and you can fuck off and do your own thing." And he's like, "But I'm fine being king. Like I'm okay with doing that. And yes, it's a struggle, but like." She just, yeah. So we have no, not Caleb, Jaden ignoring Raimi's wishes. We have Raimi's family constantly ignoring his wishes, and then we have his wife ignoring his wishes and going, "Hey, I'm going to decide for you." And I don't know, it's a weird vibe, it's a weird moral that I don't think sits right with me.
I can't even say that it's a maturity issue with Jaden because in previous episodes he is shown to be mature. He is shown to be he's shown that strength. This is it's very strange, and
He
it's
acts
almost
like a stroppy child in this. He's like,
he
I want to go to
does.
Ibiza. I don't want to wear this t-shirt. I don't know why I have to give a speech. And
Yeah,
it's like,
it's like a regression of the character at to some point where it's like, hey, you went through this monumental shall we say transformation in the debate episode where you were bringing up your confidence. You had this mentoring scene with Lura Thok, and you had the breathing exercises with Remy, and then in this scene, like where Remy, the cold feet scene, where he's the burden of being a king, the burden of responsibility and giving up his life. And Jaden's just like, I'm cold, you're being selfish, I'm going home. And it's like, but your friend is literally giving up his entire life and dedicating it to his culture and being the goddamn king. And you can't even spare 5 minutes to listen to him, to understand and even give him a modicum of advice. But what really pisses me off is he storms out, the wedding goes ahead, and then he comes back as the cosign and then gives this massively huge speech to the wedding.
Speech.
Yeah, but it's like out of fucking nowhere, where he's like basically saying, oh, for the most part, Remy's an absolute arsehole and he's got bravado. And it's just like, no, but from what we've seen as an audience, he has quite often sacrificed himself, shown leadership, shown command, has had flaws, but has learned from the flaws. And the only things that we've seen is like half an episode he's an arsehole, and at the beginning of this episode he's going to his friends, say hi to your sister for me, and I'm like, that's it. The rest of the time he showed up for you when you weren't even friends, and then supported you during your speech. He saved the friggin' ship in the first episode, and it just, oh god, it was really frustrating.
It just feels like the notes for this character are, oh, he's a bully and a dickhead. But then we've said it now, so we don't need to actually show it. We don't need to actually sort of include it in the thing. And it's exactly as you say. It's just like going, he's done so much. Like yeah, and it's really odd. And I don't know what the vibe it's going for with stuff is, especially when you have characters like Laura Thok, who people like this character, and I obviously very verbal about how much I dislike how badly used the character is, because she's done nothing enduring, like nothing. Like, she's literally let everyone down. She's got injured. She's like been weak. All she does is shout at people and be nasty to people. Like, we literally, her only part in this episode is yelling at her girlfriend when her girlfriend is like injured.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there being like, there is no endearing qualities to you, and yet I'm supposed to believe that this Remy guy who has saved people on multiple occasions is the guy who's a bit of a dickhead and people don't like them.
And it's just
weird. Like,
and it's so fake when they're back at the academy and he's, being this arsehole, and it's like, it's so put on, it's so fake, and it's like, why do you have to be like that?
But that's why I call into question whether it's the actor. Like, whether the fact of the script is saying you need to play it like this, where you're a bit of a dark horse, you're a bit of a kind of a bully, but then you do have this, but instead the actor is just constantly affable. He's constantly nice and smiley, and then when he does turn to be a bit of a dickhead, it's just like he's playing a different character.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel
Dystopians just hit it there. The writers are trying to show immaturity badly, and that's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
I think that's it, because we kind of get it, like, because Caleb, like, we're not going to talk about Caleb, but we need to move on to that. But it's the idea of, like, Caleb's arc is that you just go, they're doing immaturity quite well for him, because I get stuff where I'm like, why is he such a dickhead? Why does he not do the thing that'll help him? And why does he not sort of just own up to his mistakes and all of this lark? And you're like, oh, because he's a fucking teenager. That's exactly how it works. But like Dystopians point out with Raimi, it's like, no, he has to totally flip-flop, because the actor isn't finding the sort of gap of going, you can be a dickhead but also quite nice in the same.
It's more. I think it would work better if it was flipped, where he was not a dickhead. He was just more like he's arrogant or he's cocky. Where he because the scenes where he is deliberately a dickhead are so false and so fake that it takes you out of that character. Where when
he's not even playing it in the typical way, which would be, and he's doing it to hide himself. He's doing it because he doesn't want to get close to people. He's being a dickhead because he wants to push people away, like Caleb is at the beginning of the series kind of thing. And it doesn't do that. It literally has him being very personal, very opening up. like with everyone and being honest about his sort of like, hey, here's the problems I'm dealing with. And I'm just like going, so we can't even go down that route with it, you know?
I feel, right, and I don't know if you guys in the chat or yourself, Synoiz, are going to disagree or agree with this. There is too many similarities between the character of Caleb and Remy that the writers have had to sort of differentiate by making Remy the quintessential jock asshole of the gang, and it doesn't work in Starfleet Academy. It's not a high school. It is not a, there's not an athletic thing, if you know what I mean. Like, Remy is not part of the cool kids. Like, what we saw in the first episode was he had his entourage with him, and all of a sudden the entourage has now disappeared, but he's still acting like he's got this entourage, and it's so childish, and it's so overused as a device in college and school things, where in this they could have quite literally in 7 episodes had him as that jock image at the beginning, and then over the 7 episodes transform him into less of an arsehole, still cocky, but has an amazing amount of redeeming features, you know, like a Dr. Cox type of thing, where he's a bit of an arsehole but he's good, or he, you know, where we just see him grow as a character, where we're seeing Caleb grow and develop as a character as we go along. This is like, they just don't know what to do with Remy. They really don't.
Yeah, that it's exactly that. They don't know what to do with him, and they kind of, and it's obviously that, like, maybe it's a case of like Garrick, where, you know, where the writers went, hey, this is what the character is, and the actor kind of brought their own spin on it, and then the writers went, actually, yeah, this guy doesn't need to be in one episode, this guy needs to be in every episode, you know, like loads of episodes, and do that, and they're kind of discovering stuff, but like where they kind of, but it happened so early that it's like they can't just be like, hey, Ramey's meant to be this. Oh, actually, but he kind of works in this way, and we'll change him up.
Yeah.
No, it's far too early for any of that to happen. But it is just disjointed writing. But it's
Trek Recommendations,
like Recommendations is saying in the chat, like that was the role of the War College, and it was, but it hasn't been realized. Like, it's the fact that we literally went, hey, so there's the jock bullies, where they're being dickheads and antagonizing everyone. Ramey doesn't need to fill that archetype because we have the War College, and now it's just gone, oh yeah, that guy, oh, he's dead. You know, he's gone now, and you're just like, but it should have been that lasted longer, and then we have a full episode about what's his name, Bavari, Barvi, where we have a full episode going, oh, that's why he's a dickhead. Oh, okay, so there is depth to him, and there's all of this and stuff, and then we kind of go, whoa, okay, now that kind of changes him and it evolves him into a better character. But instead, we got the terrible discovery thing, where we got a scene where it goes, oh, look, he has other interests. Now he's dead. And it's just so squandered in terms of potential.
But even with Remy, it's like, why is he a dickhead? Let's learn. What? Oh, well, he's got no reason to be a dickhead, and he's got the way.
We don't. His parents aren't even in the fucking wedding. Like,
no.
Were his parents there? Like, could they not have put a scene in where his parents are just like, nah, we've got away from this silly college thing kind of thing, and you're finally going to, live up to our expectations kind of thing. So don't fuck it up being king. Or if it had that, where it was the pressure of him going, I want, him. It needed scenes in this where he was conflicted, and we don't. We genuinely see him just being stressed about a really stressful thing, but there's no kind of, oh, I don't know what I want to do. Like, he doesn't actually question it at all. There isn't a point in the episode where he just goes, maybe I should not be king. Like, and maybe that's the point they were making, that he never thinks about himself and he's too selfless. But it should have had scenes with his parents being like, yes, this is a big responsibility, don't let us down kind of thing. And him being like, I want to go back to college because it's easier than being king, and none of that,
But the thing is, when, his new wife comes over and she goes, you have lied to me. You don't want to be king. You're happy living your life and being free. And so, and making him feel like, she could have said, like, it could have been done where she goes, I know deep down this is not what you want. I know that you are doing it for the right reasons, but I know that this is not what you want. This is not the journey that you need to go on. So I'm going to make the decision that we will annul the marriage, you will abdicate, you will pursue your life, and I will be, Kionian's first solo queen. And right, she comes over and she goes, hey, you're really not happy. You lied to me. You're far too happy being in Starfleet and doing this and gallivanting. So you're going to abdicate from the throne. We're going to get this marriage annulled. I'm going to be the queen. And I just thought it painted her as an absolute arsehole, where it's like, this dude has the weight
feel
of
like it meant to do that, but that's very much what it did.
And that's how it came across. It's like, this dude has got the weight of an entire civilization on his very young shoulders. It's been hoisted upon him very early. He knew what he wanted to do. That's why he was like, I thought we were going to do 5-6 years.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to do Starfleet Academy. I'll get a couple of years of doing Starfleet stuff, and then we'll settle down, and I'll do this.
Yeah,
and then
exactly. I will go do my service. I will see the world. I will come back more cultured, more mature, and I will have an outside view on life to help me. This is like, you've been far too busy gallivanting the galaxy and doing this, and you lied to me. And I'm like, why did you write her to be so angry? Well, not angry, but like so like pissed at that.
Well, the problem is that like there's this conflicted element with her where she is coming across in a caring way of going, hey, what Jaden said about you was like he was talking about a person that I didn't know. Like the idea of, you've always been subservient for all the times we've known us. You've always taken a step behind me. You've always been yes miss, no miss kind of thing. You've always put other people's needs ahead of like yourself and whatnot, and that's what I want to marry kind of thing, but then he's saying, actually, when you're in college, you're taking charge, you're doing this, you've got wants, you've got desires and stuff, and I don't want you to be weighed down by being a king kind of thing. And that's the kind of message. But can you imagine like not being given a choice in this? Like imagine if your boss came over to you and went like, I can see that you're not happy with the work you're doing, so I'm going to help you by firing you, and you just be like, hang on, what? Like, can I get a say in this? And they're just like, no, it's what you want, and I'm just doing it to help you. Like,
I've literally had that.
No, but you would get that situation. You'd be like, oh, you're a dickhead. So I don't get why the writers thought that she could come out in any positive way.
It's manipulation
to him. Yeah, it's like, hey, this is your idea. Like, if it was the idea that she had come over and it was a longer scene and she went like, hey, look, are you happy? And obviously he's like, yeah, this is what I've lived my life for. I've been fully expecting this. And she's like, no, fucking be honest with me. And it's got him looking at Jaden, him going, I just thought we had more time. I'm not ready. And then her going, okay, well, we can get out of this. Like, if it was a discussion, but it isn't. It's literally, she just comes over and goes, right, here's what we're going to do. Like, it's like literally having your wife coming over saying like, okay, cool. So I've met this new guy and you're not going to be happy with me going with him. So I'm going to release you of this marriage. And, you just be like, hang the fuck on, mate.
It's very manipulative.
I could like to watch.
It's very...
Imagine it was like, at least give them the chance to live their cock dream,
It's very manipulative. I mean, like I said, you just touched on it there. It's the constructive dismissal thing at work where they sit you down and they talk to you in such a way and convince you that you are not happy. You are thinking that you would be better off somewhere else. And there is a term in employment, it's called constructive dismissal, where they are not telling you that they want you gone. They are convincing you that you should leave. And it is far too common. And I had it the beginning of last year, I had it all the time with that job where they would plant things in your head where you're not really happy here and you're not achieving and you're not living your dream, and it gets into your head. They could have written it where her goal, her ambition was to be a solo queen of Kionia, and her parents. So, it could be, the parents have decided to abdicate early and we're going to be king and queen. But then it's revealed that she talked them into abdicating so she could rise to power, but she can't rise to power on her own because there's an arranged wedding. So her plan was, convincing Remy to go to Starfleet Academy, knowing that as he was this subservient, quiet type, that he would come out of his shell, he would come back, and then he wouldn't be happy about this, he would get cold feet, and then she would convince him that it was his decision that he wasn't happy and he didn't want to do this, and then to make herself look good, would go, tell you what, you'll say that you'll abdicate, we'll annul it, and then I will run Kionia as a queen, as an only queen. And it would have been such a juicy little thing to go, actually this person has manipulated the royal family, has manipulated in the long con Remy by making him do this, but then he feels betrayed, he feels used, but then he goes, well, actually, by going to Starfleet Academy, it has made me realise that I was easily manipulated, I was subservient, and I have become a better person for having been to the Academy. It's made me see the real me. And then he goes back to the Academy, and the change in him, he's more supportive, he's more of a team player, and he's not such a fake arsehole to people. Do you see what I mean? That could have been a more interesting way of dealing with it.
I will say I disagree. I don't like that plot idea, but if they were to double down on her being a villain or a bitch, that is how they would do it. Like, if they could have gone down that route and had her actually being manipulative.
But that's like how it's painted.
It's how it's painted, but you can see that it's not intending to do it that way. But that is literally the direction it goes in. Like, the direction I would have had it at is having his parents there, and his parents being like, oh, you're finally going to make us proud by doing this kind of thing. And then having Remy have this internal decision of just going, you know what, actually, I don't want this. I don't, I don't give a shit about my parents. Like, as in him fighting back against it and going like, no, I'm not going to do stuff just because my parents want me to do it. I'm going to do stuff because I get rewarded by it. And I'm finding the Academy more than that. Like, having them dislike the fact he's at the Academy because they're like, well, you're meant to be marrying royalty. You should be doing royal duties and getting your face out there.
Yeah,
and it didn't do any of that.
They could have had so many different plots, or they could have had her parents, who were the king and queen. They were the ones that pushed him to the Academy because they didn't want they didn't want Remy to marry their daughter or whatever. There's so many things that they could have done. But what they did,
but because they were trying to make
her
2 A plots in one episode, they didn't give either.
And they painted her in such a shallow light that a load of reviewers have looked at this and went, wow, she has really manipulated him into getting what she wants. And it might not have been the case. That might not have how they wanted to write it. But
she even has the line of going, where she effectively says, oh, I thought I liked you when you were subservient and just agreed with everything. I don't like the idea that you're actually sort of self-determined now and whatnot. And it's like going, that's a strange thing to say.
It is. It really is. She is the big bad controlling nutcracker.
If only there wasn't already.
If only it wasn't Caleb's mother.
The more I think about it, Goodwill, it's going to be, and I'm so disappointed. I would be very surprised if that is not the twist at the end of the series.
I love disappointing people. That is how I am living. I am one giant failure in life, and I am thriving. I am dehydrated, unmoisturized. I'm in someone else's lane. I am the failure. I am the opposite of Brendan Fraser at the moment. So I am living for that. But it just they could have done something much more better, much more complex. It could have been fun. And I think if you were going to do a Remy episode, it should have been a standalone, single plot episode, or even a two-parter where, you know, they could have been on a training cruise and then, oh, Remy's been captured from the bridge, and then the crew has to find him.
This is the thing. It's the idea of like they did a dual A plot in this episode, whereas what they should have been doing is they should have gone, hey, the A plot is Remy and this thing which him and Jaden go on, like this, you know, about his wedding and like his responsibilities. And then the B plot is all of the other characters being like, where the fuck have they gone? And trying to track them down and trying to find them or something. Like the idea of going, like, yeah, we have these instantaneous teleporter things where it's like, you know.
And you're telling me, like,
we have this, but then we can't, it actually goes quicker than subspace messages. So actually it'll take a couple of days for a message to get to them saying, oh, by the way, that's where he's gone.
And you're telling me on a Starfleet vessel, you don't detect an intruder, and this doesn't happen? That's insane. Like, people can just waltz into a military academy.
Like, maybe it was approved. Like, maybe they, you know, but then it's kind of even more questions. The idea of like, oh, so his like wife-to-be just messages like Chancellor Aki being like, hi, so we want permission to sort of stage a kidnapping of Remy, you know, and I just think it would be a perfect comedy moment of someone pointing out like, so how did they teleport in here and do that? And she's like, oh yeah, I approved that. Yeah.
It would be such an Aki thing as well.
Yeah, exactly. But you just this idea of like, sadly, we're the ones having to fill the blanks in with these things.
And you could have had Lyra Thok made an appearance, and she's like pulling out a mechleth, and she's like, and Aki's just like, chill.
Yeah,
it's fake. It's a stag do. And she's like, what's a stag do? But shall we have you got any
about the other plot?
Yeah.
There's more I can talk about, but it's more the disappointment at Jaden. Like, you know, I don't really like how Jaden's attitude through this, but I don't think it's a flaw of Jaden's character per se. I think it's more because Ramey's so confusing, like in the way he's written and whatnot. But but I'm glad that someone agrees with me about the wife, because it is just, what a weird thing. But yeah.
Let's move on. Let's move on to the Caleb plot, because Jason's already writing stuff about this.
It's a bit weird, because obviously the complaints for last episode, like, I will just say on the record, I liked this far better than last week's episode.
Yeah.
Even though we are being fairly negative about it, hopefully we're still putting some positives in here with the bits we liked, because I did like the whole wedding situation. I really liked sort of that kind of side of things and whatnot, and I like
it's good to see a new culture as well.
Yeah, it's nice getting it fleshed out. Like, they could have done more, but at the same time, I kind of like the idea of going, yep, they've got this thing and blah blah blah. But I really liked the Caleb and Genesis plot line in this. But a lot of it hinges on the idea of it's like DS9, where you just go, you know, 90% of this wouldn't happen if security cameras existed in the future.
Thank you.
You know, like the amount of times where they're like, oh, we don't know who happened here. Like, who kidnapped Dax? And you're like, you could have cameras. But instead they're like, oh, well, they used this turbo lift and that's the best we know.
And not one intruder alert, not one, hey, a dude's beamed onto the ship.
You have to get onto the bridge, and you're just sitting there being like, how on earth would they think this would fly? Like, because surely Aki would be totally expecting them, like Caleb at least, to hack stuff and do dodgy stuff. And they'd be like, and we've seen it in TNG, where it's the idea of going, oh yeah, this got hacked, but we can blatantly see that the logs got modified. We can blatantly see that this happened and that happened, and security on the Academy seems incredibly
And you're
lax.
telling me that an entire Federation starship has no crew? The entire Academy does not have any Starfleet officers? That everyone has just gone home for 4 days? And that there is no locks on the warp core, on the impulse engines? That, like, I really like that's the one thing I
But the
struggled
thing is,
with.
there
But
are like them getting to the bridge and it being really difficult to get onto the bridge, but not difficult for Caleb. But that then they get access to the warp core and stuff. But I still think there should be more than, oh, you managed to get onto the bridge. Well, because you seem to be able to teleport anywhere, anytime, anyway, that's not really an achievement.
it was
And
one of the
then the
drawbacks. But
nightmare of as soon as they're on the bridge immediately recognizes them as officers and goes, "Oh, you're the captain, are you? You're the you're the first officer, and I will respond to your commands." Rather than needing to scan a fucking comic book for half an hour to convince the ship computer that they're actually meant to be there, which is, it is this idea of going, these are still technically part of the same like kind of ship, aren't they? I don't
I
know.
want a warp slug. I want a warp slug, but like this plot I liked better than Remy's plot. Primarily because we see a little bit more maturity from Caleb. We see him actively pushing back on Genesis when he realizes that there is an ulterior motive. And I see great growth within him. And I know one of the biggest bits of feedback I have seen is Caleb's nipples in this episode. And someone did an episode list of season 2, and it's all about Caleb's nipples. And I'm like, okay, we've run the course with this one.
We get a gratuitous scene with Caleb in this one, and the people know what they're doing because obviously I've seen a lot of sort of like gay Trek groups and stuff explode over like because Caleb he is very attractive, and I like the fact that he's a good actor as well. Like it would be. Usually you kind of go, hey, this character's there as a bit of totty, and they're also terrible, but it's quite good that he is quite a nuanced actor
What
as well,
I
attractive and stuff.
what
But
I have
he's a bit
found
OTT at the minute.
what I have found shocking is it's been revealed that his salary for season 1 of Starfleet Academy was $40,000.
Yeah.
That's
Is that not much?
So I believe that's about 3,000 per episode. Now, for context, Alexander Siddig, so Bashir, $7,500 per episode.
Really?
30 years ago.
I probably just got like four £4 and a Twix or something, and they were just like,
no, it was a Snickers. So contractually, this is why, as you all know, as we've gone on about this,
peanuts.
If you got a sentence in the episode, you got your full paycheck. You could go home, and it was $7,500 per episode. And I had to consult this with
22 episode seasons.
Yeah,
25 episode seasons.
I consulted this with Matt. So the pay discrepancies, you've got Holly Hunter, $750,000. Robert Picardo only got $200,000 for this,
which seems
low.
It's a lot more than the other people.
Paul Giamatti, $650,000.
Fuck off!
Right?
I'm just not a fan. I hate Bracker. I really think they should.
And this is his first acting job. Yeah, so this is his first acting job. You're right, Jason. But $3,000 per episode, $40,000 in total. And I had to consult this. I spoke to Mark
on that.
I spoke to Mark about this, and Mark was like, "Yeah, that pretty much tracks for modern day Hollywood." He said the one thing that has killed income in Hollywood is limited run seasons, and not just for actors or anything like that, but for production staff and everything like that. It's limited run, and it's kind of shocking because he is such a good actor in this, and the more I see of him, the more I like him as an actor. I think he's a fantastic person. He's probably a really swell guy as well. He looks like he would be
maybe
that guy. I would love to have a Costa coffee with him.
That's weirdly specific.
Hey, we don't do Starbucks.
What would you do? Like, what if you had to buy him one of the cakes from Costa Coffee? What would it be?
Ooh.
You know, the £5 ones where it's like a tiny little shortbread
the
slab.
£5 cakes. Do
Yeah.
you look like I'm made of money?
Hang on, hang on. He's from Starfleet Academy. He's off the telly. You
He would get the
can
new he would
remortgage
get
your like leg or
he would
something.
get the new berry crumble, which is really nice. Really, really. It's like a Black Forest gateau. It's lush. He would have one of them. I would sell my car to get him a berry crumble slice.
Is that our offer for getting him on the show?
Yes.
We will get you a Costa
We
Coffee
will get you
berry
a
slice.
we will get you a small to medium cappuccino and a berry
No
crumble
extras.
slice.
No
no,
extras.
no, no.
No,
Chocolate
no.
is allowed because it's free,
Is it?
but
Okay, cool.
you if you go large, you can get out the door.
Yeah.
But
So call us. Yeah.
Goodwill, buy him one and take it to London for Warp 2 if you're brave enough to visit the South. I'm quite literally in London tomorrow.
It might be cold by then.
I am dreading this weekend. But yeah, so like I saw the salaries and I was like, he deserves much more. He really does deserve much more. So does some of the actors and the actresses in there. They really do
it's
deserve.
such a shame because like some of them like Jet Reno is massively lower. Like I think that the Doctor's on 200 and then Jet's on like 100. And then
Yeah.
the other actor people are like sort of like, I mean, maybe it's because she only has little bit parts and she's not really sort of massively in it. But then neither's the Doctor. The Doctor hasn't had like a full episode, which has all been around him. He's had
Yeah.
like one or two scenes. But it's still the idea of going, yeah, Holly Hunter, she's a big name. I get that. Paul Giamatti, he's only in like 3 episodes at most kind of thing.
Mhm.
And yeah, and obviously I'm not keen even if he is a famous actor, I'm still a bit like, meh, someone else could have done better.
But
But
I like the dynamic between Genesis and Caleb, and I know they were trying to allude to something, and I am so glad that they didn't pursue it towards the end.
you know what's really difficult is the whole point is Caleb is a dickhead. Okay? Caleb is one of the worst characters in this, but that's the point. And that's what's good. He is a teenager. He makes terrible decisions. It's the idea of going, like, the whole plot of this episode is that Terima managed to injure herself by using God mode for too long or something. And luckily they've kind of, because I was worried of going, oh God, the entire show is going to center around that episode that I didn't want. Like it's opened that Pandora's box. But
Yeah.
luckily it kind of goes, oh, she's gone back to Beta Z, so don't need her in anymore. So she can just bugger off until the last episode where she'll come back and Nusbracker will kidnap her or something. I don't know.
And she'll
Whatever.
scream.
Yeah, she'll scream. Who cares? But at least she's not there anymore, kind of thing for that plot hole. But the whole point is that she was in a coma, she's out of the coma, and he hasn't messaged her. He keeps
Yeah.
trying to message her, like, and send her voice notes, but then he deletes them and goes like, no, I'm not going to do that. And it's purely because he's scared of the consequences. He's scared of going, hey, she saw another side of me that I didn't want anyone to see, and so I'm scared of pursuing anything with her, even though I care about her and whatnot. And you just kind of go, how crazy selfish. Like the idea she has been in a coma. She has literally woken up, and he is not sparing a single thought for, I wonder if she'd like to hear from me. Like, I wonder if there's anything I could do to help her. And he has a monologue about, oh, well, and it becomes relatable because he does have a monologue where he's like, oh, I'm upset because I want to help her, but I don't know how to help her. So instead, I'll just do nothing. And you're like, that's really dumb. But that's exactly what people do. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've done it so many times where I have refused to do the thing I need to do, and I've put off the thing I need to do because I'm scared of the consequences or because I'm scared of what'll happen kind of thing. Like last year I had to like cancel a show and be like, hey, you know what? I don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. But like, and if I told you ages ago, it would have been fine. Like it would have been like, okay, cool, you have plenty of time to find someone else, you have plenty of time to do something else with it. But because I was so scared of letting them down, I left it for ages and then made it way more difficult for them by cancelling. And it's that realization of going, yes, we are dickheads like this. You know, so I can sit here and be like, he should have messaged her immediately. He should have swallowed his pride and done it for them. And yet we do this. And I love that the show has that kind of level of, yep, can totally relate to doing that, like putting off doing the proper thing. But it is difficult. That it does kind of, like you're saying, it does kind of tease maybe he's going to make a move on Genesis. Like he kind of realizes, oh, actually, I kind of have a bit of a crush on Genesis. And I'm like, don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't do the whole like, hey, your girlfriend is in a coma because she saved your life, you know, and you haven't messaged her in a month since she got out of the coma, and you're just going to cheat on her with the next girl that shows interest in you. And I fully thought it would go that way, and you're just like, please don't. And yeah,
It's really good. I mean, I like the fact that it's not centered around Caleb and it's more Genesis, because I like the character of Genesis. I like the actor who plays Genesis. I think she's really good.
I really fucking like Genesis. That's what annoys me though, because Trek Recommendations basically corrected me earlier, saying it was actually a dual B plot episode rather than a dual A plot, which I concur. But it's the fact that I really like Genesis as a character, but she's barely in it. She kind of has these scenes. She hasn't had a full episode. She's always had a B plot, or she's had a dual B plot with someone. And you're just going, no, the actress is really good and the character seems really good. And yeah, we just haven't got a full episode on her yet.
There's a scene that really pissed me off. On the floor in the corner bit where the shot like docking thing room is, and they are talking, and she asks him, have you been speaking to Tamira? And she's crossed and she's looking like that, and she asks the question to him, and immediately the camera moves and she's in a completely different position.
I noticed this as well.
It really got to me, because I'm like,
continuity.
Dude, I know there's continuity. There is continuity, and then there is just a blatant editing mistake. Yeah. And it's like, dude, you have had an entire year to re-edit that. An entire year. And you left it in, and and this is not the first time this has happened. There's been a few things like this season.
We haven't done it because we've been talking about other stuff, but there are a lot of editing mishaps.
Faux pas, shall we say, that even like a first-year college student would go, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
there's something that you could put in there. And you could even cut to something else and have the voiceover happen.
Yeah,
you know.
And for such a intimate scene as well, it takes you out of it, because it's like it and again the both faux pas so far have been in intimate dialogue heavy scenes that it takes you out. Like again, Lurathok and Caleb. It must be the curse of Caleb. Lurathok and Caleb, where she's talking and she's looking in like this, and then she's like this because suddenly he stood up.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and this is just like, come on, guys. This is like 101 editing fundamentals here. You can do better than this. You could find a way to cover that up better.
And that's what worries me, because, you know, when we're talking about, the Raimi plot in this, maybe that's why it's so dodgy, because they just edited loads of stuff out. Like, they just went, hey, let's trim this down so it's like 50 minutes, because maybe there was a whole bit where his wife was talking about, oh, well, what do you want kind of thing, and they just hacked it all out, because
but there's
you
no
get the
need.
impression that they're changing the episode in the editing room from what was intended.
But there's no, like, if it's in terms of runtime, there's no need. You are on a streaming service. You don't, like, you are not bound by TV constrictions where, oh, we need to have 3 advertisements and it has to be done in 60 minutes. Go on for an hour. Go on for an hour and 5, an hour and 10. If it services the plot, if it gives us those vital little tidbits all the way through, do it. We don't care. And we've said this for years, where it's like, why is this episode 45 minutes long? Why is this episode 42? And then why is the following episode 1 hour and 10 minutes when it didn't need to be an hour and 10 minutes? And it's like, it's almost like the people behind the scenes are still in network television mode when they should really think that we don't have to trim the fat. We don't have to do this. If it serves the plot, if it enhances it even a little bit, keep it in. Who cares if it's an extra 2 minutes? It's fine. And I don't... Maybe someone in Hollywood can explain this to me. I thoroughly don't get why there are time constraints or why things are cut to serve a time constraint.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with that. It doesn't make any sense. But to get back to the plot of this section, the whole point is that Aki says that she's putting Genesis on the captain's path, which is exactly what she wants. But then Genesis realizes suddenly when Aki goes, hey, so because we're doing this, we need to thoroughly check all of your references and check all of your stuff and follow up on everything just to make sure that your record's squeaky clean and whatnot. And then Genesis kind of starts going, oh shit. And then, her face drops and stuff. And then it's quite clear that her plot is the reason she stays behind at the academy is because she wants to hack the computers to remove the bits that she lied about on her references. Because what's revealed at the end is that it's such a fucking weird thing where basically she got references off people who were basically saying, oh, she does everything she does out of fear. The reason she's so driven is because she doesn't want to let people down and because she thinks that these expectations of her father, which would have been a perfect thing to parallel with Raimi's plot in the same episode, but we just didn't. But and you're just going, why did she edit that out? Like that's not the end of the world, or like why is that a bad thing necessarily? But yeah, so she edited these things, and she knows that as soon as they follow up these references, that person is going to be like, that's not what you got there, is not what I actually said. And so she stays behind to hack it, which seems like a much bigger crime than the initial one. But you know what's weird though? They do it. Like I remember, I don't know. Have you ever met a compulsive liar, like Goodwill? Have you? Yeah. I've only met two people in the entire of my life that I class as compulsive liars. And it's the weirdest thing. The weirdest thing. Because people throw the term around. It's like narcissists where people throw the term around, but they're actually rare as all shit. But like someone who genuinely given a choice this thing and it's fine. Oh.
You cut out a little bit, darling.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this but basically there's a guy in school and he just lied about everything and he couldn't justify any of it and it was so obvious that he was lying. Like I remember he said that his dad died in Vietnam and you're like, there is no way with how time works that could be possible unless you were like a test tube baby or like your sperm was stored or something, like your dad's sperm
was he in the same year as you?
Yeah.
What?
Literally, his dad would have need to have been dead for about 7 years or something.
Yeah.
In order to, but genuinely, but would totally double down on it, and he would, and everyone was just like, no, we know you're lying. Why are you carrying on? And it's strange. And then a couple of years ago, I bumped into him last year. It was fucking awful because it's like literally everyone, him chatting to me and he'd be like, oh, we should hang out more, and me being like, see you, I was you know me, I'm nice to everyone, and in this one I was like, oh hello, I'm gonna go over here now, and it was so horrible. I'm not ever like that, but I was just like, no, I don't want to talk to you at all.
Wow. That says a lot as well.
But a couple of years ago, like about 10 years ago, someone mentioned him, and they mentioned that he got fired from his job, and it was basically because he lied on all of his references. So he'd been at this job for about 5 years, and then they basically did a background check for some reason on him, and they were like, we've done this check and you never worked at this company, you never knew this guy, the guy that you have as your reference he doesn't, we can't find him anywhere, and he certainly doesn't work for that company that you said he worked for. And obviously, and I kind of go, they don't really usually check that. Like, but that I'm assuming that they wanted him out, so they were kind of trying to find
It's
something to do
normally
it.
just like a HR pause, is it? Like, did this person work here? Yes or no? And then they just give
Yeah,
dates.
that's it. But they literally looked into it, worked out it was all absolute bollocks, and then just yeah, and then he
Oh,
literally
something must have happened
he
then for them
yeah.
to go down that rabbit hole.
I think them looking into it was them trying to find a way to get him out after, so something. But
Wow.
yeah, they literally just on that day got, they're like, "Hey, get your stuff, get out." Like it wasn't even a 2 week notice period. It was just like, "Get out." But and so we see this in Genesis where I just go, "Oh, it's not a major thing that she lied on her thing," but I have actually seen it when they do. They do turn around and go, "Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that wasn't a little white lie. That was genuinely a."
The closest thing, I mean, I know a narcissist. I know a narcissist. I don't know a
Hmm.
compulsive liar, and narcissists terrify me.
Hmm.
They really terrify. I mean, this one, oh boy, she has photos of herself in underwear above her own bed.
Oh wow. Is actually so she remembers what to do.
There is self-love, and then there is self-love. And I'm considering selling her a nice juicy bottle of dick lip.
Oh no,
But
not the we
but
can't explain that on this
it's
episode, but it's a running gag.
it's gag. But it
You've made it sound gayer
but
than it is. I found the video of me eating dicklick off a Biscoff biscuit. Donna
wasn't
feeding
that
me it.
nice?
Really nice.
Really nice.
Genuinely.
But
Dicklick
but
is
anyway,
actually very nice. And I'd never thought I would say that, but yeah.
it's so with Genesis, it's more it's she's not a compulsive liar, but it's more she can see she doesn't she's on the captain's track, and what is her goal? What is her goal in obtaining this ship to get these? Because if she alters them, they'll know. If she reverts them
Well,
back,
apparently not.
they'll
Like
know.
this is a Starfleet like we see in Discovery, where they're all useless at technology.
Incompetence.
They don't know how to teleport someone over to another ship. They don't know how to, like sort of, detect hidden ships. They have to get a cadet to do it. It's like it, and it is just
Why
that
is
thing
the
of
chip just easily accessible in the chair, by the way?
yeah, it's really confusing, and it's done from programmable matter, and I'm just like, that's just
But why is it not locked? Why is that chair not locked to Captain Aki, right? Fair enough, Caleb hacked the bridge and he says to her, I've got you 5 minutes. Why is the chair unlocked? Why is the whole goddamn ship unlocked? The amount of times a starship in Star Trek has been stolen.
yeah.
800 years later, they're like, maybe we should put a stop lock on the captain's chair. No, it's fine. And
Yeah.
like, so she gets the key.
I mean, you do get the impression, like if it was framed in a they are fucking stupid, like because
Yeah.
if it was the because what I assume happens is they get access to the bridge, it immediately sets an alarm off in Reno's quarters where Reno gets told, oh yeah, by the way, chief engineer, someone's accessed the bridge, and then that's why she walks there and catches them. But because it's not framed that way, and it's framed like that just accidentally happens, you're just a bit like going, but then I don't know, like the it would have been better to have her. What I would have done is I would have framed it as it's not because she gets kicked out. Basically, Aki kind of goes, "Hey, because you've done this, because you lied on your CV, we can't put you on the captain fast track kind
Yeah.
of thing. We can't do that." But what it should have been is it should have been the reason you're not getting on that is because you've proved that under pressure you will do dangerous things. And
Yeah.
if we had Genesis being like, oh yeah, yeah, I know we're probably going to get caught, or I didn't think about the fact that we'd get caught, or that there'd be checks, or that it would be noticed if we're deleting logs. I'm so desperate to get this done because I need to do this that I'm going to ignore all of these problems. And then Aki's like, yeah, that's not captain material. That is not
Yeah.
the kind of head you need to have to get that role. That would have been better for me than her kind of going, oh well, slap on the wrist,
It
some community
really,
service.
it just, the consequences do not fit the actions,
Yeah.
or the punishment does not fit the crime. But there's like, even Aki could have gone, what was your end goal? Like, what was the end game
Yeah,
in,
did you think we wouldn't notice?
yeah, what was your end game in manipulating Caleb, getting him to hack the bridge, get this programmable key? What were you going to do? And then she could have even said, like, hey, you tripped a whole host of silent alarms as you did this. Starfleet Command were made aware. We felt, like, the ship's impulse engines were activated. How do you think we would not notice this? And like,
Yeah.
she's starting up the warp core, she's starting the engines, and it's like, Caleb gave you 5 minutes. They're gonna notice a thwacking great ship leaving San Francisco with no one on it. What was the motive? What was the goal of this? And she just made it worse and worse and worse. And I think it just would have been better if she'd been back to the academy and she was trying to find these ways to change it so it's not detected, and she's manipulating Caleb and stuff like that. But eventually she comes to the realization that no matter what she does, she is screwed. So she goes to Aki and admits and says, I altered out my references because I didn't like what was seen on him. And then Aki would have been, I feel, would have been more sympathetic, would have shown more empathy, would have appreciated that she came to her with honesty about
I
it.
think, do you reckon though, maybe we're just not seeing this the way it's intended? Like in terms of, because they are meant to be teenagers, they're meant to be kids, effectively, who don't have the best judgment in the entire world. Because
Well,
that feels like how it's meant to be framed, and yet we're looking at it being like, what fucking idiots? And we're like, whereas we should be like, what teenagers? But yeah, because it's the same as Caleb though, where Caleb's like going, oh yeah, I haven't messaged my girlfriend because I was scared to, and I didn't think that maybe that's worse than not doing, not sending anything. Like, so sending nothing at all is far worse than sending the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing. But that's how teenagers think. The same way that Genesis is also like, oh yeah, if I just change this round, if I just sort of like if I just hack the records and stuff, that's better than admitting that I like forged them or something. Because you're
do you
right, I think Aki would turn around, but I don't know, because obviously we've had so many things like, oh, obviously whole Bashir's whole plot line is them going, wow, you've been an amazing doctor in Starfleet for like sort of so many years, and you've proved that you're not like a traitor or anything like that. Oh well, because of this stupid mandatory rule, we're just going to have to fire you and destroy your
or
entire.
Una?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Or Una. And it is. So you are kind of like going, oh, yeah, maybe you would go to crazy lengths to modify your record when Starfleet are so
But then
particular about the
they could
details.
have used
But that could have been
Caleb.
a plot. They could
Yeah,
have had that in there,
but they could have used Caleb to, Caleb could have been, the surprising voice of reason, where she finally admits, and he goes, no matter what you do, they will detect that this is being edited. No matter what you do. Your only logical course of action is to go to Aki and admit what you have done. And I will come with you. I will be your support.
It should
And
have
it
been
just
that
could
plot
have shown
line.
growth.
Well, it should have been that thing that we have in a lot of shows. I can't think of an example, but I've seen it loads, this trope, where he's like, no, I'm the criminal. I've done all of this stuff before. You shouldn't be going down this path. You don't have to be doing that. I had to do it in order to survive. And I know that it's never, ever as good as just coming clean or being honest, kind of thing. That could have been the lesson there. But the problem is, Caleb can't be the one to do that because he's really immature. It's like,
There's
but that's
the
what it would have been otherwise.
Yeah, and it's like it's almost like they are deliberately writing inflexibility into these characters, and it's like, but you want these characters to develop, to mature, to grow. Between episode 6 and episode 7, there has been a month of time that has transitioned, and they have recovered and it they could have just done so many things better, and with Caleb, he could have been that surprising voice of reason for Genesis. And we've seen Genesis up until this point, clearly command material, incredibly smart, incredibly resourceful. But when it comes to this, she goes off the rails. She has a wobble. And then she does irrational, illogical things. And Caleb could notice this, could sense this, and then be that voice of reason to bring her back on track. And
that is kind of what happens, but not quite as well done as that.
Exactly. But then they just get 200 hours worth of community service where
she does get kicked off the captain's track. The thing is, I do like it that, because this is the problem. It's like Starfleet is ludicrously strict with all this stuff. Where, hey, you lied in your application, you're out. I kind of like that they're a bit more lenient there, but is that Starfleet?
It's kind of competence when we're seeing a sea of incompetence, which is like you need to pick a lane. Are you wholly incompetent, or is it just a few select people that you have put in place that are just not good at their job?
It genuinely should have had a line from Aki being like, did you really think we wouldn't notice? Did you really think you could get away with hacking onto the bridge and doing that? Because that's what's happened. Essentially what's happened is they had ways of telling, but we're so used to everyone being incompetent and not being able to do their jobs that we're just going like,
it just makes it makes it look dumb. It really does make it look dumb, and it's disappointing because, like I said, I really like the character of Genesis, and I do want to explore more. I want to explore her dynamic relationship with her father, and they use the word dadmiral, so brownie points for Trekking Up North on that one. But it was a good episode overall, but there are quite a few elements that frustrated me. And like I said, there's a few practical things that frustrated me in terms of the way that the episode is edited and shot. But then story-wise, there's certain conveniences and certain restrictions that are there to serve the plot that in any other episode wouldn't be there. And I lay you a bet in the next episode they'd be like, oh, they can't go on the bridge, there's massive security. Oh, we've got an intruder alert. And I'm like, but you didn't have an intruder alert when one of your cadets was being kidnapped.
It'll be the whole Discovery thing where it's like, oh yeah, you couldn't do this when the plot required it, but then next week everyone can magically do that thing. Like, say it was last week's episode where it's like, oh no, but we can't do that for this one reason. And you're like, really? It's like, but you could,
but like I said, it is a marked improvement over last week's episode, but we do have little bits of feedback for it.
Yeah, that's it. I think we've been fairly negative about this episode in our reviews, but that's because we're focusing on the negative stuff, on the stuff we didn't like. But I did like it. It was improvement. I liked the costumes. I liked the costumes in this episode. I liked the stories in what they were attempting to do, but obviously not quite how they
just
were handled.
no action as well. That's that, is
no action. There was no action at all, and it's brilliant. There was loads of politics, there's loads of people talking, there's loads of cultural exchanges, and there were characters relating to each other, not in a romantic way. Because that's what people complain about with Strange New Worlds, where it's like, oh, two characters have to talk, they must be in love, and it's like, no, like have them be friends and interact, and yeah, it was really good in terms of that, even if the motives of some characters are just all over the shop.
Yeah, there's a sheer lack of consistency when it comes to the characters, especially Jaden and especially Genesis's motives. Like the end game of obtaining this chip is just it baffles me. And like last week's episode, I'm still struggling with how Tamira telepathically screamed the Furies to death when she wasn't there, and sound doesn't travel through space, and it's like, do you know what I mean? And there's just a few things where it's frustratingly vague.
Well, we talked about it in our last episode of all the other ways it could have done the same thing, but just been more believable and felt like more of a payoff rather than just, oh, she has magical powers and but they're really convenient.
Or even just finding out tiny things like, what is All Worlds Day? Is it a Federation Day? Is it a new holiday? What is all... Like, Trekkies like to find out the tiny little details like this. Like, apparently there's a galactic meteor shower that's only taking place on Earth. And it's like, what? Like, a galactic... a galactic meteor... Like... Explain it better. Do better and explain it. Like they did with the Kionian portals where they're like, oh, it's an artificial singularity between two things. And it's like, great. And you have this technology to travel instantaneously between two planets and you don't share it with the Federation, despite the fact the burn happened. You've essentially created a Stargate.
Wait, this is the problem. This is the series is trapped by its ties to Discovery, rather than being like, hey, let's ignore Discovery and ignore retcon it effectively, and we would be in a much better place. Obviously, we'd lose Jet Reno, and I'm annoyed about that because she's amazing. But it is just annoying though that it's like going, yeah, you kind of need to explain that now. Like even like original like Golden Age Trek does it with their Ionians and whatnot, where it goes, hey, they have this technology, but it's destroyed in every place that we've found it in, or we can't understand it. And that when it does appear, like when they have the Jem'Hadar in DS9, where they kind of find something, they're like, we're trying to use this, and then we can take over the whole like universe with it. It becomes a big deal. And yet in this one, it's just like, oh yeah, this race just has that, and it's like, okay, like if they just put extra bits in to just clear up the plot hole of going, oh, but this was organized between the Academy and your race. It's meant to be a secret from Raimi, but they've let the shields down so that this can happen. And it's a special kind of transporter. It's not a special wormhole. It can't just, all it needs is that
they're
little
not
thing.
part of the Federation, so they don't share this technology or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. They have this technology. They're keeping it. But then, like you're saying, if when the burn happened, why didn't they just colonize every planet? Why didn't they literally become the like we're saying with the Romulans? Why didn't they just take over the entire galaxy? Just being like, yeah, we can move around freely. You can't. So
I think it's the curse of Discovery, and I was discussing this with like I said, I was discussing it with Mark today, who's just literally just finished watching Discovery, and it's like they very often back themselves into a writing corner. And they did it very early on with the short trek Calypso, where they were like, hey, this is 1,000 years into the future from season 1 of Discovery. Discovery's hidden in the nebula, and this dude finds him, yada, 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 right? So then, as early as season 1, you knew how Discovery was going to end. Like, no matter what, this ship is going to be in this nebula 1,000 years. So then it's like, right, so you've automatically backed yourself into a corner. And then they had the issues with the prequel. Oh, it's a prequel thing, and we feel tied to canon, and we want to break free of canon. So then they went to the 32nd century, and then they still had issues with the writing, and they felt like they couldn't. And then to end it, they were like, oh, well, we're going to retrofit Discovery for this special mission, but they don't tell you because they don't know themselves why they are doing this. And it's like, this is not a case of the timeline you set it in prequel.
This is for a series
just bad
where people
writing.
have manuals for the ships, where you can tell me all of the bits of the Enterprise D and what all the bits do and where they are, why the quarters are lined up the way they're lined up, how the bloody promenade works in DS9 and how Cardassian architecture, because they're so nerdy, there's so much stuff to Trek. So then when you get stuff where it just goes, no one's going to think about that, you're like, you are obviously not dealing with the right people.
It's bringing in people. It's bringing in people who, we're bringing them in. They're a Star Trek fan, but how much of a Star Trek fan are they? And do they have an understanding of the fan base that knows where, you know, it was the whole thing when Discovery did these really, really shitty turbo lifts, where essentially these turbo lifts were just floating in massive empty spaces on the ship. But the ship is not that big, and why would you need these massive? And then they do it because it looks pretty, and it's like, but that that doesn't serve a purpose. Why do you need massive empty spaces? Why is this? What? And then because it frustrates hardcore fans, because it makes the universe less believable. And Jason mentioned it earlier on, where it's like, it just doesn't feel real. The wedding didn't feel real. And then at the academy, it's the same students that you see again and again and again. This is supposed to be an academy with hundreds and hundreds of students, but you see the same ones every week, the same dozen people every week. You need to make the world believable.
There are 4 instructors for the entire academy.
But you need to make the world believable, and that it's a living, breathing part of a universe. And this is the one thing that Discovery absolutely struggled with. It felt isolated, it felt cut off, and it didn't feel like that it was in a living, breathing world. And you look at Strange New Worlds that were set 2 years after season 2 of Discovery. Well, no, months after season 2 of Discovery. And it felt like a completely different show. It felt like it was in a universe. It felt like it was
Trek.
It got really it. Good. And again, it's like, you can look, you know, I am not going to be a hater of Discovery, but you have to understand it's the writing, it's the design choices, it's having people coming in going, the fans won't care about this. And if you have a voice in any aspect of Star Trek that says the fans won't care about this, I will absolutely guarantee you that the fan will always care about it. We've got people, right? Mike from Clone Star Podcast, who does the Alcars Workshop, who beautifully rebuilt this. There is an entire fan base dedicated to the fonts and colorings of Elcars, of flags, of computer screens, of banners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there is a dedicated base just for the fonts. So if you ever have a voice in Star Trek that goes, they won't care about this, they will, and they will let you know that they care about this.
And it's that kind of laziness where people are like, oh yeah, but then it's difficult to bring people on board if you go, hey, you're really restricted with this, this, like...
Look at Star Wars Andor.
Yeah. Wait, fucking hell, how good is Andor?
But look at Andor. Look at Andor, where it's set briefly before Rogue One, A New Hope.
That's what I loved, though, about Andor, where just going like, oh, look, you can have it all looking like A New Hope. Like, literally all the corridors and all of the Empire sort of buildings.
Uniforms.
They all look the same, the uniform. And you're like, and it's great. No one has said, oh, it looks so dated and crap. And you're like, because it's sci-fi. It's like a factor of, like, TNG... people don't realize this, but people really struggle to date TNG because they know it was like old, but they can't say 80s or 90s or something like that simply because what do you refer to? There's nothing. There's no real technology in there, kind of thing. Like, if anything, stuff like Discovery can be dated because of the CG, because you look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's how we used to do, like, sort of sci-fi things in like the mid-2000s, you know.
But it's, you know, the thing is with the golden era as well, it was incredibly progressive for technology because they introduced touchscreens, they introduced pads and stuff like that. And you go, yes, Star Trek informed the development of technology and always has informed the flip phone, the mobile phone, and blah, blah, blah. They've always informed the development of technology.
Holographic keyboards.
Nobody
wants a keyboard where it's floating in the air and your fingers go through it. It's not
haptic. You can't feel it. But, you know, Star Trek has informed technology, but what we're seeing now is technology informing Star Trek. And it's sort of lost its magic where tricorders are just Galaxy flip phones. the monitors are just large touch screens. There's no innovation, and some of the innovation that excuse me, some of the innovation that they added with the programmable matter, it doesn't feel achievable. It doesn't feel, yes, it's 800 years in the future, and that's fine, but it doesn't feel believable. And then you've got floating nacelles, and then with the floating nacelles, people go, why? What is the benefit of having them detached? Why is it? And you know that they've just done it because wibbly wobbly futuristic typey thing, and it's like
as if they tied it into the whole Voyager thing and going, the nacelles need to be that way because then it stops it tearing space and whatnot.
And it's like look, the computer screens need to look like this because they've evolved from buttons and they've got touch screens. But then you look at Starfleet Academy and it's like, but they still have.
Everything's in English.
They still have...
Not even TNG had that,
They still have monitors where you can clearly see the grid lines for the pixels and stuff like that. And it's like, why... The one thing that really gets me, this is the 32nd century, you still use the TOS red alert. Not even Voyager and DS9 had the TOS... Why is this... And it just... There's just tiny little things, but you need to really tighten up the tiny little things to make the world more believable. And like I said, we are positive about Starfleet Academy. It is expanding the world. It is rebuilding the world. But there are certain
enjoying it.
Yeah, but there are certain things that still tie it to Discovery, and it really, really needs to break away from that. It needs to be its own thing, and they keep referencing Discovery, and every time they do I retch because it's like you're still trying to force
well, to quote bloody what's it called, Clueless, like, stop trying to, no, is it Mean Girls? I don't know, one of them.
Stop trying to make it happen. It's not going to happen.
Stop trying to make Discovery happen. It's not going to happen because, and it's just the idea of going, I don't...
Let it be its own thing. And I think I'm to this day, and I know we're only on episode 7, and I was going to keep this for the final. I still thoroughly believe that this should have been done in the lost era between the Undiscovered Country and the Next Generation. You could have had the beautiful monster maroons. You could have still had the same issues. You could have had, you might not have been able to have a Klingon or anything like that. But you could have explored an era. The aesthetics could have been beautifully recreated with modern technology, but it still could have kept that Andor-like charm.
It would have been great, but the producers would have gone, hey, we're making this for modern kids, and they need the flashy things. They need flying robots. They need all of the screens to look super futuristic. They can't have the cars everywhere and whatnot. It's like,
but they still have it in this.
They've painted
everything's a mismatch.
A corner with what the show needed to do.
Yeah, and everything in this is a mismatch. They go on about so many times about 24th century things, and it's like, okay, but what happened in the 26th? What happened in the 28th?
Nothing has happened apparently in the last 1,000 years.
We know that the temporal Cold War happened and time travel was banned. All right, so what happened to the temporal prime directive? What happened to time ships? There's so many things in the...
Why did nobody think, should we just break the temporal prime directive, go back in time and shoot a certain kid in the head before he screams? Maybe. It literally devastated the universe. And this is the problem. It's the fact of the universe needs to protect the crap from Discovery in order to keep Discovery in it, rather than just retconning all of it and everyone being happy and being like, oh, we could actually just have plots now, rather than, that needs to happen because we need to reference the burn, but then that adds this in that we can't do this, but then Yeah.
It's like, you know, and I know that they'll now probably say, yes, but if we do that, it'll just cause a tangent in the universe. It'll create a new universe and stuff. And it's like, right, but this is the Star Trek that goes...
At least make a plot out of it.
Yeah, but at least now it's
at least
like...
have us meet a character who tried to undo the burn or something,
yeah,
and it didn't work.
Or, you know... Because the Star Trek universe has gone, we need to go back in the past to save the future and stuff like that. And it's like, right, that's okay. But there's so they jumped 800 years into the future to avoid being backed into a corner with canon, and then what they have actually done is backed themselves into a corner with more canon. And now they're stuck and they don't know what to do. And they do know what to do, but they are afraid to pull the trigger and do it. Let's be honest. Like you said, they could have, hey, you know, we could go back in time and stop that. We could save billions upon billions of lives, 120 years of turmoil, disastrous consequences, multiple, you know, ruined empires.
Federation, like, surely, I know Section 31 has been, is it Section 31? Yeah. Section 31 has been absolutely destroyed by Kurtzman and whatnot, because obviously, like, it's a joke now in Star Trek, like, canon.
Yeah.
But, like, surely, out of all of the factions in the entire sort of like galaxy, it would be like they'd be the ones going like, hey, so if we do this, the Federation gets back its previous strength. We don't separate out from Beta Z and stuff. We know what's going to happen in terms of, you know, like we now know, hey, Klingons can be defeated just by messing around with dilithium and whatnot. And hey, Romulan's planet's going to explode at some point. You know, like all this stuff, you just be like, that sounds exactly what an organization like Section 31 would do.
We know the exact resonance. We know the exact resonance of active dilithium that we could trigger a catastrophic event again.
Yeah, and it's all this stuff is just going, wow, that would literally put these bad people in the best driving seat possible. And we're just going, nah, no one thought about doing any of that. Instead, they're doing weird bounty hunter missions in random bars.
and it's just there's a far grander thing that they could do with all the resources of the Star Trek history there, where they're like, you know, we had the temporal agents, we had the USS Relativity going back in time to save this because they have to preserve the timeline, and they, you know, there's these and these and this, and you know, the Krenim. Of all people, the Krenim, the Lords of Time in Star Trek, could be like, we could do this, and none of it just comes to pass. And it's purely because they have to serve the events of which Discovery caused that they now have to live by. And it's like, you don't have to do this. There could be the temptation of a revived Section 31 trying to convince Aki to go, you could save your son if we found the last remaining time ship in Starfleet. We have found it. We could act. You could save your son from dying in the burn and the temptation and stuff like that. And they won't go there. They won't go there because we know that this is just going to be, well, the person pulling Nosbraka's strings is Caleb's mother. She rose the thing, and he has to make a choice between his mother and his surrogate mother, which is Aki in the academy. And this is how it's going to go. And there's just so many more universe-rich things that they could do. And I feel like we have just been on one of the biggest tangents of this season so far. Tangent. Maybe we will have a Doctor Who crossover people want. I don't want that.
Do people want that? I don't think people want that.
I don't want that. No.
Yeah.
If you think the hate is bad now, oh
my word.
Woo!
They are very toxic. The Doctor
Do
Who
you have
people.
any further notes for this
No, because
episode?
we need to stop the episode.
Oh yes, I've got a job interview.
You've got to do things. But
I
yeah,
have got
no,
90 minutes to do a job interview.
I will apologize for the fact of how negative I've been in this, because I did like this episode. All of the negative things that I've said have been out of kindness for here's how we would make this better. But I enjoyed watching this episode. I enjoyed sitting down. I enjoyed watching it. And yeah, last episode was just a blip, but it does worry me that everyone enjoyed the last episode so much, and I'm confused because I can't understand it, and that it suggests that people would want a full show of Trek like we got last week. And I genuinely can't think of anything worse than that happening. I would much prefer two full seasons of Trek like we got this week. Yeah.
I like the episode. My only feedback as a whole, to summarize, is there needs to be better writing. Not in terms of the stories, just the tiny things need tightening up to make it a solid story, a solid plot. Because there's too many things where you're going, why do they have to do that? How can they do? Why is she being like this? And there's too many questions being asked throughout the episode that don't get answered.
It would be far better if they go, hey, we only have 10 episodes. We can't do the full 22 because obviously unions and money and stuff like that. We can only do 10 episodes. Set your sights smaller.
Yeah.
That's all we need. Just don't do big stakes. Don't try to do a cast where it's like 8 different characters who all need fleshing out. Just go, hey, like the big, like Caleb's arc for the whole series is that he does this. He doesn't need to find his mother in season 1. Like we don't need all this, because the fact is it's worse to speed through a big plot line than to just have a smaller plot line.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, 2 hours and 25 minutes later.
And the first thing he said is, we need to speed through this one.
I've got an interview. We need to speed this up. I have got 90 minutes to do a job interview.
Do it.
Hello,
you can see all the people we support in the comment, in the description below. We're not going to shout them out because that would waste time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sticking with us with our review of Cosine. I apologize if you did see any inappropriate comments within the chat. I now have a moderator as well as myself. So I apologize for that. If you like this video, click a like. If you're not a subscriber, why? Click subscribe. Tell the world about Trekking Up North, please. There will be more shorts coming up. I have just had no time. I've had so many job interviews this week, but there are YouTube shorts coming up as well. So if you ever see a YouTube short, share it, like it. It'll be on TikTok, Instagram. It'll all be there. Anything that you see from us, share it. Tell the world. I have been Captain Goodwill of the USS Adequate. He has been the delectable Gideon from the planet Honk. Are you on Twitch tonight?
I might do it. Yeah.
Follow him. Link down in the description below. Pump him full of Lady Dimitrescu inappropriate Tangier text-to-speeches. They're hilarious. Until next week, take care of yourselves, live long and prosper, and as ever, on Trekking Up North.
Miles, your sorbet sucks. Now get out.